fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Round 5. It's time to get into the meat and potatoes of this championship. This is where you start building up that momentum of an enduro season on the horizon. And here at a very bumpy track, a very suited track to endurance, this is going to be one of those tracks where you're going to see really where the title contenders are going to come out of the woodwork. We've seen all the niceties of the start of the season. It is here at Sebring International Raceway here in Florida where we're going to see the next stage of the championship. Just a year ago, this was one of the calling cards towards the end of the season, and one which really did prove that the winner was very unpredictable to come by through the bumps, through the changing of tarmac surfaces over to concrete. This is going to be one tough challenge that we are going to be seeing the Super Split 2 action to start off your evening's worth of work here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV. Good morning to all of you across the UK. Good evening to all of you on the Australian Peninsula. It is myself, Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Reese Gardner here in the commentary booth for Australian touring car action. And Reese, well, we're about 10 minutes away from the start of the opening race of the night. 20 laps, one mandatory pit stop required. And it has to be said, this Sebring track does suit a certain style of driving. It is a lot more different to what we have seen over the last couple of tracks, especially with the bumps. And it's really going to test the setup gurus over at the prospective team.
That's exactly right. Sebring is a circuit that grew out of temporary routes. It's a former military airfield, U.S. Army Airfield Hendricks in the town of Sebring, Florida. Eventually turned into a permanent racetrack over about half a century. So it really puts a test on these drivers, especially in these big Australian touring cars. They're difficult to handle on smooth circuits, full stop, but around the bumps here at Sebring, as we can see on the stream, a lot of drivers still getting to grips with it.
They certainly are, and of course, These drivers have had a lot of pre-qualification time to try and get things right. They've had 18 hours to try and find the magic formula to go as quick as possible, and these drivers just missed the cusp, which was set by Emily Jones, who got 40th position, but 41st and down towards 80th. They now have this opportunity, this magical chance. If they can win this race, and they get themselves a magical golden ticket, not to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory race, but to the main event, Split 1 of racing action.
You know, and that's the next best thing to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, isn't it? Split 2 races, generally shorter than what we have usually in this championship. Split 1's going to be a 250k affair, but we're only racing for 20 laps in this upcoming session, so any mistakes you make out there on the track, you're not going to have much time to recover from them.
No, you're certainly not, and all these drivers are going to try and make sure that they push themselves to a level which they are very comfortable with. Their qualifying positions for this race are already predetermined by that pre-qualification, but this is a full international layout of Sebring. It's a 6-kilometer just shaved under track, which houses itself 17 beautiful turns worth of racing over a lap, and really one which does make this track feel a little bit like an American Silverstone.
Yeah, and that's one of the fairest comparisons I think I've seen made. Sebring and Silverstone, they really developed in parallel, I guess you could say. So a lot of history at this place. You can see it in the tarmac. It's a worn track. It's a bumpy track. It's haphazard. It's cobbled together. Many surface changes, as we can see riding on board with Scott O'Keefe, currently sitting 11th on the timesheets. He's coming through the Le Mans and Gendebien section. Coming up to it, one of the most difficult parts of the circuit. Got to ride those curbs and make sure you get it turned in and track out nice and smoothly. Watch that throttle on the exit too, because that straight is going to be one of the action points.
It is going to be the action point because that Ullman straight heading to the corner with 1004 line, Sunset Bend, is going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities out on track. When we came here last, we saw Cooper Webster pick up his first ever victory in V8SCOPS. We saw the mistakes of Ethan Greg Goldson. We saw the coming of age for the championship that year of Jared Phil Sell. But this is a completely different format, and this is Split 2 racing. So what we're going to be seeing here is drivers getting their elbows out, trying to get aggressive here today. If you look at drivers who are maybe there to look at, who have the pace, well, you can't look past 67 at the moment. He's top of the practice times by 2/10, and that is Riley Blythe, a driver who many feel should not be in any way, shape or form in position in Split 2 with the amount of ability and pace that he possesses.
Yeah, and Riley Blythe, you know, he's been one of those guys that's always made an appearance around the second half of Split 1, all that sort of stuff, and we've grown used to seeing him there. So Riley not making the cut this time, it is a bit of a surprise, but we certainly one of the more capable drivers in this particular field, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. As we reach the final 5 minutes of the session, the likes of Gary Cooper and James Scott also close to the top, and the top three only separated by about 2/10, so it should be a close one.
It certainly should, but I pose this question to you. Riley Blythe has failed to make Split 1 in pre-qualification this season. What has changed since last year when he was absolutely fantastic in the way that he was driving?
There's a variety of factors that can come into it, especially in sim racing. You know, you have personal issues. You can have your schedule, work, and all that sort of stuff distracting you from the sim. Remember, a lot of these guys, they do not race full time. They're not real racing drivers. They are not full-time sim racing drivers either. These guys have a lot of lives outside of all of this. So finding the time to get on the sim, it can be a bit hard. Riley may have fallen victim to that.
Well, give it about 5 years, I reckon, and we'll have quite a few professionals going at it for a lot of beautiful money that will be available in the sim racing world. Mark my words, that's the prediction I will be finding very, very soon. But these drivers know that this track is a tale of two racetracks, it seems. You've got The concrete first sector, which switches very quickly into asphalt, is very much a stop-starty style track through the turns 3 and over to 5 and 6 of Big Bend, and then get over the top half of the circuit, effectively running through the taxiways and then going on to the 2 very, very long straights that they have. This is very much a setup for top speed track, but also one where you have to be very, very cautious about that ride height. And it's that ride height which I think is going to catch a few of the newer drivers out who are looking to try and make that push and are trying to showcase just what they're all about.
Exactly. Mechanical grip is worth quite a bit at Sebring, particularly at the beginning of the lap and towards the middle of Sector 2, the slow, twisty sections. Todd Park's on screen at the moment coming into Turn 1. This is one of the turns where you basically just need to get through it, but then you come up to this very slow section where mechanical grip means quite a bit, and you've got to make sure that you ride those curbs effectively. Not hitting the apex can be worth an awful lot.
Certainly can be worth an awful lot, and all of these drivers know that they have to be at the top of their game if they want to make a race like this work out in their favour. So we'll see how this one plays out for them, but let's just take a look at track conditions here at the moment. It's a cool one here. 24 degrees in the air, 27 on the track. The drivers will be liking this. Winds blustering in from the north at 14 kilometers an hour, and you have to say, with the weather temperatures that they've got, they're going to get a little bit of cloud cover over this race. Not much, has to be said, not much here, Reese, but enough which is going to play at least a factor in the way that these times are going to fluctuate.
That's it. If there's a cloud passing over a high load turn on this circuit, like the first or last turns, you definitely see drivers gain at least a tenth from that, depending on how they time it. You really just got to drive the track that's in front of you, and if you see things getting a little bit dark and grey, that's your cue to start pushing a little harder.
And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS series is absolutely chock-a-block with amazing action. And after this race, we will be heading over towards the fallout of the Split 2 race, heading over to qualifying in Split 1, which will be 20 minutes, and then 250 Ks worth of great racing action in the main event of the evening. It proves to be a spectacle every single time, but with 90 seconds left on the clock, the person that we did have penciled in for pole position was Michael Healy, but I believe Michael Healy is MI&A, so it will have to be next man down who is going to take pole position.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. I'm not too sure where Healy is at the moment for Trick Sim Sports, but time is just about run out for our pole sitter. Unfortunately, that is the case sometimes in sim racing, but it turns out James Scott is going to be our pole sitter in Michael Healy's absence.
Well, that will make the number 26 of Brenton O'Brien very happy that he's got an Evolution Racing Team car on pole position. It's been the big change in the season that Evolution Racing Team have become the team to beat. And, well, there were questions about Brenton O'Brien saying, oh, it's not fair. We're seeing Trans-Tasman Racing pulling away and making boring racing at the back end of last season. I've seen no complaints from him since his team started to become the team that has picked up victory upon victory this season. But, hey-ho. Got about 20 seconds before the start of racing action as we head over to the grid. So many teams want to push themselves up into that main event spotlight about who can now make sure that they can make that dream a reality around the bumps, around the concrete, around the asphalt, and make a reality. Practice is all but over, and in just a couple of moments' time, the grid Super Split 2 racing here, round 5 Sebring, will be as follows. On the pole position then will be James Scott, and he will have Lance Perkins alongside. Riley Blythe starts from 3rd position with Gary Cooper in the 420 car, blazing it in 4th position. Dion Peters and Scott Larnock hold out row 3 with David Kidman and Justin Wallace on row 4. It's going to be the Mega Black Racing car, Ben Christensen, starting from 9th with Damien Johnstone 10th.
11th is going to be Matt Stratford. Sean Thompson in the 092 lines up in 12th. And our friend Brenton O'Brien, who you were just talking about, Sperry, in lucky 13th position. Alex Greenwood and Bruce Kiley behind him. Todd Parks and Damon Mulqueen line up on the next row. Jason Hyde, Jamie Stovold, and Jamie McKnight rounding out the top 20.
Rest of your grid cycling up on your screen right now as it is Evolution Racing Team first and third. They'll be looking to control this race here, but 20 laps worth of racing acumen about to get underway here at this beautiful track. Who will be able to make their way up to the very, very top? We will find out now, because lights out and away we go. And Riley Blythe's got a stormer, and look at that really horrible start from James Scott. Blythe's going to go from third to first and cronkade this like Sebring 2 years ago. Down the inside he'll try and go as Scott gets absolutely gobbled up by Dion Peters as well, and it's Riley Blythe who holds control of the field as they head towards turn number 3 on the brakes. The battle's still going on for 4th place, and Scott's going to try and hold it, but they're going to left and right and try and find a way through as they start tripping over each other as they look to find single file. That's one of the Mega Black cars trying to find a way through, and that is going to be Dion Peters trying to get past Gary Cooper. Can't quite do it. Round the outside of Big Ben he tries, but look at this. Here comes Kinman trying to find a way past Perkins. He can't find.
No, certainly can't. How good was Blythe's start? That has to be one of the best starts relative to everyone else I've ever seen in a V8SCOPS race. And there's a wreck in the back at the hairpin. We got cars off, and that's an issue there. That's a big choke point, that hairpin. Weaving to the left and right on the exit. Difficult to find your way through in the middle of a field. Martin Casey in trouble.
Yeah, Martin Casey got turned around very, very pedestrian-like, and that will not help his charge as he will look to try and make his way a little bit further forward as we day green here at Sebring, and they head themselves out of the tower corner and making their way towards Bishop and then the Le Mans sections. It is a breakaway for Gary Cooper is the link that has broken as James Scott is all over the back of Kinman, trying to get back up into that 3rd place, but it is Lance Perkins who now finds himself in 2nd position in the Mega Black racing car. He'll be trying to chase down Evolution Racing Team's Riley Blythe and try and make some progress. The coalition, we could say, between Mega Black Racing and Team Hyperdrive has been all there to see, but we are starting to see drivers now trying to pick up moves as we do see a slowdown penalty coming in.
Yeah, Joel Kenton unfortunately falling victim to that. He's currently running down in the 20s. Brett Hender right behind him, but we're riding on board with James Scott as he chases down Kinman into turn 1, and they're getting on the brakes so hard through this turn, and you're fighting the car the whole way through. Look at the way they ride the bumps. It's all about how you get that car set up to go over those surface changes. This top 4 battle absolutely on at the moment. Blythe is not skipping away from these guys like I thought he would.
No, he's certainly not, and that's just a testament to the drivers behind. He got half a second over Lance Perkins, but no more than that as they start pushing their ways around this circuit. And for the moment at least, we haven't seen too many overtakes. Here's Matt Stratford though. He's trying to go at it against Scott Larnock, who angles a nose to the inside of Ben Christensen, who is the new signing at Mega Black Racing. You can see with the Cave sponsoring there on the side. But ultimately, Larnock has not been able to find a way through. He hasn't had a good start at all. He dropped 3 positions on the opening lap, trying to get back through. Well defended there by Christensen. Larnock is not committing to everything, but at Cunningham Corner, maybe had half a nose, but on the run to Tower, I think he's going to run out of track.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. Tower is one of those turns where you got to be decisive if you want to send one up the inside. Christensen opening the door because that's the usual line. Bit of a mistake as well from behind from Stratford, but Larnack starting to fall under pressure there coming out of Tower. And into this complex, we've seen some amazing moves over the years, but none so far. Bit early. Christensen, there we go. He's off. Is he going to get a slowdown? Maybe, but he's going to have to let... Wow, he's going to lose at least 3 positions out of this one.
Well, he's got the draft, so it'll be 2 as Brenton O'Brien just behind gets under pressure from Sean Thompson, who will be trying to find a way through, but it's now Noah's arcing this. They're too wide and too deep, and O'Brien pushes Thompson over to the inside, and look at that just in front. Right on the outside tries Stratford. It's 3-2 at the line of 1004 corner with 1004 line, there at Sunset Bend. It's held by Larnock for the moment, but you can see Stratford will have that recovery back towards turn number 1. A good move as well by Damien Johnstone. Look at that, he can fit a piece of paper between them as they head into turn number 1, and they sort themselves out nicely. Little tap there from Christensen on the back of Damien Johnstone, and that will allow a run through of Thompson, and that's going to be 2 for 1. Nice offer.
Oh my goodness, Brenton O'Brien two-wheeling it. A little bit of contact, sending the car up on 2 wheels, don't mind that. O'Brien, more contact with Ben Christensen. This is getting really awkward, everybody tripping over each other, but looks like the one who's come out of it best, well, it's going to be Scott Larnack and Matt Stratford. They've broken away from all these guys. They're still fighting.
Mistake from Larnock, and through will go Stratford just about with a bit of contact to boot as well, and they are still going. You're absolutely right. This is Jamie McKnight now, who is a little bit too far down for my liking. I think he's got a bit more pace. He's up against Alex Greenwood right now with Todd Parks just behind, and he almost shot it out. Bang! And he's going to hit his teammate and straight across into Christensen as well. It was always going to be the domino effect, and that was all on the contact before the brakes at Cunningham Corner.
Real shame. Motum simulation replay as a result of that. Looks like McKnight. Well, let's have a look at what went on here. Greenwood versus McKnight, side by side out of the hairpin and through Fangio. You can run side by side nicely through here, but when they get up to the braking zone, McKnight moving over to the right, and I think Greenwood just getting on the brakes a little bit later. Thought McKnight would have left him a bit more space there on the inside, but he didn't have to. That's resulted in a pretty bad situation for a few drivers.
Here's Justin Wallace at Sunset Bend going down the inside of Dion Peters, and he just gets a little bit shaky. He can't do anything. Look a little bit further forward though. Here's James Scott trying to find a way through on David Kinman. They're starting to drop Riley Blythe here, and that gap, which was half a second, is now 1.2, exactly what's wanted. To the inside of David Kinman now goes James Scott, and he will have that inside line, but he'll have no pace to work with. But this is an aerodynamic based corner, and as such, picking it up through the second half. Through goes James Scott. He's back into a podium position.
And that's what he needs. His next target, obviously, Lance Perkins. And you can see, wow, Scott sending it right to the inside. So he's really putting the pressure on here. Right on the back through Big Bend. This could potentially be a move at the hairpin. They've only got 15 laps to go as Perkins goes slightly defensive. That is a very big dive. Are they going to gather it up? Yes, they will.
Well, I've just seen 2 wide, 4 deep for a very brief moment, along with likes of Grant Haynes and Brenton O'Brien, who's backed out of it with a bit of damage on his vehicle. Mulqueen, Clark, Pickett, Kenton, Rob Harris, all in there. This is right in the lower nether regions of the top 20. And now they're all having their nice little scrap at the moment. And it seems that Scott Clark's found a way through. But my goodness me, everywhere you look, there is a battle to be had at this track, as the likes of Gary Cooper right now tries to stay with Lance Perkins, who's dropped another position over the course of this lap, and it's a pretty big drop, and he got it lost at Cunningham Corner on the brakes into the right-hander. He just outbroke himself, lost the rear end, and well, thank you, that's a cookie's position.
Yep, we're going to take a modem simulation replay of exactly what happened there. So this would have been shortly after he was fighting with Kinman and coming down to this very heavy braking zone. So Scott had already skipped away by that point, and Perkins just made that mistake on his own, slipped over the curb, and that just allowed him through.
Certainly did, and well, the last thing you want to be doing here is hemorrhaging positions, and I've seen a few drivers hemorrhage some of those at the moment. Perkins is now down 2 positions over the course of this one, and now finds himself a good 4 seconds off of the race lead, but will need to rely on some poor pit stops in front of him to get himself a little bit further forward. Something that hasn't been stated though about this Sebring track here, Reese, is the fact that you can fuel save very, very efficiently here if you are very coy with the way that you drive this track.
Exactly. There's a 50% fuel tank capacity for this one, so the drivers do have to keep an eye on their fuel numbers, but there are plenty of opportunities around this track to save into turn 1, into turn 3, into the hairpin, basically into any heavy braking zone on this circuit, of which there are many.
Here comes Perkins, down the inside. Has he overcooked it? He has, and that's going to be straight back he goes, and he might lose another one here. He's pushing a bit too hard because he's going to lose 2 positions as both Gary Cooper and Justin Wallace are now going to try and sneak away to the inside, around the outside of Fangio. Cunningham corner down the inside for Wallace, and he's going to get sideways on the brakes. Oh, he's trying everything, but ultimately, sideways is not the quickest way. He'll stay too wide as he now heads himself through the next section of track towards towards Tower, as we do see Scott Larnock run off wide. This is going to allow Todd Parks the way through on that run to Tower.
Another modem simulation replay. Let's have a look at what happened to Larnack, and this would have been down at, I believe, Cunningham Corner. So let's have a look at what happened. This was for position 12. Little bit of contact side by side. Almost seemed like Larnack locked the rears a little.
Yeah, it just did seem that way, and that's not going to be helpful. Second look at it then, as they get through on the replay. This is Matt Stratford as well, trying to get in, and it's just tap that happens, and it's never a nice one when you get yourself heading through that section. Drivers are wanting to be very concerned about the way you defend that section, but ultimately we are seeing drivers not being able to slow the car down if they're going to go for said gap. So keep an eye on that one in the main lot of racing. But we are now lap 6 of this event. Riley Blythe leads by 1.7 seconds at the front of this one. Look a little bit further back because here's Alex Greenwood and Todd Parks going at it. Look a little bit further in front. Damian Johnstone trying to find a way past Matt Stratford, and Stratford just pushing a little bit wide there coming out of turn 1. Small kink of 2 now into the 3, 4, 5 section, and ultimately they're holding each other up, allowing Larnock the chance to get back in with Parks and Greenwood and Jason Hyde and Brett Hender as well.
You can see on the screen the sun's just fallen behind a cloud in our virtual Sebring, so a little bit more grip available to the drivers at the moment, thanks to the way ultraviolet light interacts with the track surface. Stratford under a little bit of pressure there from Johnstone. What happened to Thompson?
He just went complete Tokyo there into the hairpin at turn number 6.
No! Whoa, Stratford, that was a huge save. How did he manage to save that?
Well, let's get a look at it, because he was heading through these lefts and rights, going up through the gears. There's a lot of torque on that machine, gets a wiggle, and he has to take 2 bites of the cherry to save it. Not only that, has he cost himself 2 positions, he's now under pressure from Parks and Hyde, as we now start seeing this one continue on circuit as this race does continue. That is the Motum Simulation replay for you. Oh, my word, that's a great save.
Certainly. We're staying with it because something happened to Greenwood in the midst of that. He was stopped on track. Looks like a bit of contact between himself and a Synergy Sim Racing driver walking up into the wall. Todd Parks was the other driver involved there, but I don't think he did anything necessarily wrong.
Well, I didn't quite get the best look at it, but they continue racing here as the mistakes have just cropped up ever so slightly as they now look to think about that pit stop window. Here's a look down the inside by Scott Larnock. He's going to find a way through on Damian Johnstone at the corner with 1004 lines, that one being Sunset Bend, and that is a very, very accomplished move by Scott Larnock, and he made that one look incredibly easy by the way that he was driving around then, as we are starting to look at that pit stop window coming into view. Lap 7 of this event. It is a short pit stop window. You're looking at about a 6 to 8 lap window that we've got, but this one could all very easily change. Scott Clark, though, under pressure. Here's Josh Pickett trying to find a way through. This is the battle for 17th position out on track, looking to the inside at 3, but that is a clear back out there from Pickett, who wants to have that run into 6 to be able to make that one work.
Yes, indeed, and we take a look at Damian Johnston up ahead as well. It's looking like he's... Oh my goodness, he's still having looks at the hairpin. He's really looking to make that move. He's just not far up enough.
No, not yet anyway, and if he wants to not lose time to Scott Larnock, the best way he can do that is to start getting aggressive very, very quickly. We have seen that in the past. Sometimes that is the best way. Go out and try and drive and try and be aggressive with the way that you are running. Brenton O'Brien a little bit further down. This is 24th and 23rd position. Under pressure here from Jamie Stovall, who is going to try and up and under at Cunningham. That's not going to work. And behind that, Bruce Kiley trying to get back into the action. He's down 10 positions from his start place, and he will want to recover all of those 10 positions, as there's a mistake coming in from O'Brien, who just runs a little bit wide, opens the door here for Stovall, but can't quite find the power and the drive to take advantage.
Yeah, and remember, all these cars are carrying damage as well. Stovall with a good run there, positioning himself for a move, but just not able to find the extra grip he needs, and his straight line speed isn't going to be helped either. Stratford losing a spot, and now Johnston is on him.
It's not Stratford who's lost the spot, it's Johnstone with a slow down penalty, so he will drop back the position, and that will not be good. Here's Jason Hyde, though, trying to pick up a run off the exit, can't quite.
Oh, there's been
get
contact!
there.
O'Brien, heavy into the wall. Stovall went into him at Sunset Bend.
Oh my, let's get a Motion Simulations replay on this one then. Big issues for the team boss of Evolution Racing Team. They head to Sunset Bend. It's a very fast braking zone, and you can see just that difference, and oh, it looked like the corner was covered there by O'Brien. Let's try and get an onboard from Stovall's perspective on this one, because that's going to tell the story of exactly what happened. You can see here, he's trying to get himself that run. You see he angles to the inside. It's a late move actually there by Stovall. The corner was never going to be his, and I have to say he's going to have to cop some blame for that.
Yeah, I think he missed the braking point as well, and instantly there we see a pit lane penalty for Bruce Kiley, deemed at fault for a past incident with Alex Greenwood, which we did see. So, another thing for the stewards to look at now with that incident.
Yes, a lot of things that the stewards will be looking at, and they've got a lot of work as Jason Hyde found himself side by side with Todd Parks, but ultimately found a way through there at Cunningham Corner. He got to the inside and ultimately just about slowed it down. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit, but that was a good move there from Jason Hyde, who moves himself now up into 12th position here in this race and is making some very, very nice progress.
Dear.
Has to be said. Uh-oh.
Todd Parks behind him, getting very leery. It seems to be a trend happening at Sebring at the moment. Drivers losing the rears under braking.
They certainly are losing the rears under braking. That much is true. Battle for third, though, firmly on as David Kinmond has been caught by Gary Cooper, and Kinmond is not a driver who wins races or has great results through out-and-out pace. He does it through out-and-out strategy. That's been where Kinmond often shines in the way that he runs his races. I'd say he's an enduro driver more than a sprint format racer, but Gary Cooper, Lance Perkins and Justin Wallace all there. This is third all the way down to sixth, and they're having their scrap, whilst Evolution Racing Team have their picnic and field day as their two drivers are a good 4 and 7 seconds down the road, sorry.
Yeah, Evolution Racing Team dominating this one. Blythe and Scott have no competition right now. Not in trouble at all as we almost coming up to half race distance. Kinman doesn't look like he's under much pressure into the hairpin either, but Cooper, he's really pushing it in that 420 car, blazing his way off the apex.
Oh, he is. As out of pit road comes Damien Johnstone. He has been one of the first to come in and make a stop, as has Jamie Stovall, who gets himself out and away. I have a feeling that may have been for a penalty of some variety, but it's as we get confirmation that it was, this race does continue and the pit stop window is very firmly open here at Sebring. So now the question becomes, in this train of four fighting for a podium here, when do you bite? When is the right time to come down onto the lane? Do you need the draft? Do you not need the draft? Do you want a dancing partner? Do you want to be on your own? This is what many drivers are going to be thinking about as they take to racing action.
Yeah, and tyres may not even factor into it either. It's just going to be a fuel stop, only a 20-lap race, so the drivers would probably have to take care of their tyres a little, but you don't know how much it's going to cost you in the stops. I think if I was in this battle, if I were at the front, I'd probably stay out, try and just eke out that lapping in clean air.
Well, We'll see if that becomes the case. Anyone diving in? Well, they don't listen to you, Reese. The
Yeah,
top
Kinman
two in
didn't
that
take my
group.
advice.
No, they certainly didn't. In comes Kidman, in comes Gary Cooper, as Scott Larnock and Sean Thompson decide it's time that they dive down onto the lane. So that's going to release Lance Perkins and Justin Wallace into their battle. And we've seen the fragility of Perkins in the Mega Black racing car, sending best wishes as well to Scotty Briscoe, team boss there at Mega Black Racing. He's in hospital at the moment, so wish him all the best. But likes of Blythe and Scott able to pull away at the moment. But we'll see how this pit stop comes into play and where they are going to filter out. It will be a battle of pit crews to see who's going to come off of the lane first. And I have that sneaking suspicion, and yet it is David Kinman who ultimately, I think, has managed to gain himself about a second there on that pit stop.
Yeah, you can definitely see the gap between them has grown bigger as they come out of the pit lane back onto the circuit. Right there is the view from Gary Cooper's car. David Kinman a little smaller than he was. A 1 second shorter stop for Kinman, we've just been told, so he could be taking a bit of a chance with his fuel numbers.
Either that, or he has been so good with his driving style, which I think very much lends itself to fuel saving, that he's able to do well. Eyes on Larnock, though, in the 112. He's fallen out just behind the Damian Johnstone, so Johnstone's done very well off his stop.
Yeah, certainly has. I didn't expect those guys to reverse in order. Larnack back in 17th. Well, he's looking to try and repass Johnstone, maybe? No, he doesn't have as quite a big of a look as Johnstone seems to have at the hairpin, but we'll have to wait and see how they go through this extra part of the circuit. We got to remember Bruce Kiley up ahead of them has not pitted yet, so they might get held up here.
They might get held up indeed. We've got another little battle out on track. This is the 060 machine. This is Joel Kenton, part of Team Hyperdrive. He's trying to get out there against Eamon Molequeen at the moment, who is trying to push his Synergy way forward and try and make a good overtake. And he's got the inside line here coming onto the Ullman straight, but he backed out of it there. He didn't want to go down the inside at Sunset Bend. Maybe an indication that he's coming down onto pit road. Little mistake there, little wiggle as Riley Blythe has come down, race leader, onto pit road. James Scott has stayed out another lap, and joining him is the likes of Wallace, and also got Lance Perkins in there. Dion Peters has decided to come in as Mackenzie and Keynes, as Kenton has decided he wanted to dive down onto pit road, so really firmly a pit stop window open. Here's Kinman, though. He's coming down the front stretch right now. Out and away goes Justin Wallace, so Riley Blythe comfortably away, but the question will be, has Wallace managed to pick up the jump through turn number 1? You bet he has.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. And now let's have a look at what his stop was. A 1.5 second shorter stop than Kinman. So we thought Kinman's stop was short. Wallace's is even shorter.
Well, he's certainly going to be rolling the dice come the latter stages of this race, so we'll see what Justin Wallace is able to pull out of his magical hat of tricks around this track. But now the race becomes for Riley Blythe. Okay, consolidation. He's been in this place many a time before, leading races in Australian touring cars, and he knows exactly what he needs to do if he is to push this one right to the limit. James Scott, though, I don't think it's going to be too much pressure for him in this event. Why? Because Multi67 says that Blythe should be ahead.
Well, that's there's no doubt there. I reckon Blythe will come out ahead. The gap between two Evolution drivers was already big enough. A stop is not going to flip them around unless James Scott has done the mother of all fuel-saving runs and only has to come in for a few seconds. We'll see how long his stop is. Here he goes indeed. James Scott into the pits. Blythe is just about to come onto the back straight.
He is, and that is not much time at all to get down a very long pit road, has to be said. Make your stop and get out, because there is a lot of fuel that will needed to be added to these vehicles in order for them to push their way to the end. Remember, half distance and only just they've managed to make as Matt Stratford decides to come out and come into pit road, as does Damon Mulqueen decide he wants to come in and make that stop. And here is Riley Blythe coming out of Sunset Bend and coming over the very elongated start-finish stripe, and he will look to make a way past his teammate who is down on pit road and comfortably manages to do so as James Scott gets on the gas and out and away goes, as it is a slower stop than Riley Blythe, a more conservative stop than Riley Blythe, but crucially it keeps him in second position.
And that's all he needs right now, does Scott. Obviously, he'll be ruining the fact that he's lost a bit more time to his teammate, but that second place, that's well protected. He's not going to have to worry too much about the guys behind him.
Oh, Todd Parks has smacked the wall, I think, at turn number 1.
Oh, yeah.
He holds it together, and that is very, very interesting for him. Gets himself into one, and bang, he just bounces off the wall. No harm, no foul, but it is the nature of that corner. It is blind through most of it, but you know there's a big go-away wall there on the inside that says, don't come near me.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the onboard view. Wide entry into turn 1, but just a bit narrow on entry, and bam! There we go. Right at the apex cone, actually. So, bit more time lost to Matt Stratford that he didn't want, and actually, there's been a position change. Yeah, Todd Parks. Very horrible exit off the hairpin.
Yeah, and he just got himself a little bit wide, struggled to put the power down, and Stratford, who had all of the power down, effectively just said, one up, you mate, and I'm off away. So there, with just coming out of the pit road, actually, Matt Stratford, picking up a very nice position for it. Here's Scott Larnock, though, trying to get around Damian Johnstone, and they're side-by-side through the Bishop's Corner, and now they head themselves over towards the Le Mans section, and surely it is position given to the Simworks TTL car. It is, no matter what the Gone Road car thinks.
Yeah, exactly. You can't... The only chance Johnstone would have had there was sending one up the inside at the following corner, but it doesn't make sense when you're in the middle of a race. You've got this entire straight ahead of you. You want to concentrate on your exit for that one. Try and do it at a different corner. Johnston, he's in the draft, not making many gains. You can tell he wants to get by Scott Larnack so bad, as does Jason Hyde. Meanwhile, David Kinman, that's a move at turn 1.
It's an attempt at a move at turn 1. Does he still have a nose as they head to 3? The answer is he does. So through the kink of 2 they go. Always favours the vehicle on the outside, but in at 3 and around the outside. Good defensive work there by Justin Wallace. He is able to maintain position at the moment as he keeps himself in that 3rd place. Gary Cooper sitting in the cat's bird seat. Yes, we know that the Indy 500 is coming in a week's time, and the iRacing Indy 500 happened just like yesterday afternoon. But for the moment anyway, Gary Cooper is the one sitting and waiting for an opportunity the very same way that Kevin Ellis Jr. did over at the Indy 500.
Exactly right. Cooper just hanging back as Wallace and Kinman continue to fight ahead of him, and this is something that we see all through the field in VRS V8SCOPS. It's been something, you know, the 2 drivers battling and ruining their tires in the process. Cooper, meanwhile, just hanging back. Matt Stratford and Brett Hender together on track. That's Parks behind them. Just a change of position just outside the top 10. Stratford and Parks both had very eventful races so far.
They have done, and Brett Hender's had a very quiet one to pull up the amount of positions that he has been able to do so far. He's up 8 at the moment in this race, and he'll be very happy with the progress that he has been able to achieve so far. Gap at the front of the field is up towards 7 seconds very, very soon, so this one pretty much a formality at the front of the field, barring any catastrophic mistakes. Here's a nice scrap, though. Grant Keynes holding it around the outside and making the move on Damon Mulqueen. So Mulqueen ending up getting caught out, or actually well defended, I should say, from Keynes, who's been able to hold off that position and continue racing. But Mulqueen not giving up here as they make the run to Sunset Bend.
No, certainly not. And Keynes, he's had some quite interesting moments over the last few laps. Side by side into Sunset, you've got plenty of room on the entry, lots of room and lots of concrete to use. Can he hold it round the outside? Goodness me, it's definitely possible, but the way the corner tightens up on exit, that's given the advantage to Mulqueen.
Has given that advantage to Mulqueen, and will he be able to hold it through the next section of track in towards turn number 1? He will go, and ultimately the answer for that is going to be an attempt, but nothing forthcoming of that one. So that one not playing out the way that was potentially wanted then. This race then continues to scrap out at the front of this field, but for the time being, Justin Wallace is trying all that he can to play the defensive man in the battle for the podium. They're not going to get anything for it. They're going to get a nice little pride and maybe a little sticker for third place or something like that. But ultimately, they're in their own little scrap, their own little world at the moment. And Gary Cooper, you feel here on 14 of 20, soon to be 15 and 6 to go, needs to start thinking about making moves and positioning himself perfectly.
Yeah, exactly right. Justin Wallace has got the measure of both of these guys on corner exits so far, and you can see Cooper is just backing off a little bit as Kinman's tyres are starting to go off. And you are right, Cooper needs to start thinking about setting up that outbraking move. It's corner exit is what you really want to perfect here if you want to make moves.
Yes, and it's how you perfect it. Here comes Dion Peters. He's going to come down the inside of Sean Thompson, trying to make the move happen, and he'll get on the brakes in Sunset Bend, and look at that. That's a very accomplished move there from Dion, as he will get past Sean Thompson, who has been effectively cherry-hopping teams, but here's the over and under. Yep, you knit one, and you pearl one straight back, and he gets to the inside there of Dion Peters, who did not defend that one as religiously as I thought he would do, so back down to the inside goes Thompson, and just like that, here's an over-under, because look at this, coming straight back. He's going to try and get it at 3. Well defended there by Thompson. He goes straight to the inside, but Peters says, none of that. I'm going the long way around trying to make this move. Runs out of road, though, and ultimately out of traction, too.
Yeah, out of tyres, I think. We've seen, particularly from Justin Wallace earlier when he was defending from Kinman, that strategy of driving the car harder into the corners to maintain track position and momentum. That's what it's what Peters was trying to do. Unfortunately, I don't think he has the tyres to make it work. Meanwhile, Damian Johnston and Jason Hyde, they're battling behind Scott Larnack, and it is really hotting up. Larnack's starting to skip away from these guys. We might see Hyde getting a bit aggressive.
We very much could do so. Jason Hyde in the number 8 machine is up 7 positions and wants to make it an 8th, as Damian Johnstone has gone sweet nowhere in this race. Started 10th and is 10th at the moment, but we'll see how that one develops over the final 5 laps of this event. But keep an eye on the times as well, because
Whoa, Hyde!
Yes, you're right. Oh.
Wow.
Goodness me, almost running himself into issues, and we said he had to be aggressive, but that was not quite the plan we were looking for. I was looking, though, as we get a replay of this, at Lance Perkins' times, because he did a 2:04.4 last time by. He's a full half a second quicker than all of the drivers in front. Perkins could still be on for a podium.
Wow, actually had one hand on the wheel there to Jason Hyde saving that, but the point you make about Lance Perkins, very, very true. You can see him behind Cooper. He is physically getting bigger behind Cooper. So we could see something really go off in the next couple of laps. Cooper, Kinman, and Wallace continuing to run line astern. And 2:04.7 for Wallace, 2:04.5 for Kinman, 2:04.7 for Cooper, a 2:04.8 for Perkins. They were all pretty well matched on that lap, but I get the feeling Perkins is just charging up a charge.
Yes, he's trying to gather himself up with 5 laps to go. He's trying to showcase exactly what he is going to be made of, but all of these drivers falling away from the 2 Evolution Racing Team cars who dominate the front of this field, looking for Super Split 1 worth of racing, as we keep an eye on Damon Mulqueen at the moment. He is trying to get around Kai Sloggett at the moment in the 4:08 machine on the brakes into the left-hander of turn 3, and then switchbacks of 4 and 5, which are going to be so crucial in the main event race on lap number 1, but ultimately nothing just yet. He's setting up that run here through 6 into 7, and we'll see if he's going to be able to make that one work. Mulqueeny, I think, a bit too far back at the moment under the mobile 1 footbridge, and on the brakes, no dice.
No dice at all. Kai Sloggett, actually, one of the drivers that has made a huge amount of moves in this race, started outside the top 30 and now challenging for a top 20, actually, just making it in there. Brett Hender and Todd Parks on screen at the moment, still going on with their fight. And Todd Parks, once again, when have we not seen Todd Parks out of control in this race? he has not had a good time with those tyres, and I think Brett Hender will be counting his lucky stars if he saw that in the mirror.
It's erratic driving, but that is the Todd Parks way. He drives as if he is going through a park at times, but he's certainly still finding himself in position to try and make moves, and maybe Brett Hender's just got to be a little bit cautious now about how much room he gives that driver there. Of course, Todd Parks a bit of room when he comes in and battles. Lance Perkins' charge has completely dropped off now as everyone does 205 flat and 205.1s in the battle for the podium with just 4 laps remaining. So Justin Wallace still being the man to beat then in this battle for third, but Kinman, I think, is playing that patience game. I think is trying to run him out of fuel.
Yeah, entirely possible. We got to remember, Wallace's pit stop was incredibly short for this race, so he could be marginal on those fuel numbers. In fact, it's almost a certainty. So Kinman's decision here is just to make sure that Cooper doesn't get by him. He can keep up that pressure on Wallace, and it could be a very easy podium by the end of this. Modem replay, on the other hand, we're going to take a look at what happened with Damon Mulqueen here. Oh, very twitchy from Sloggett.
Yes, Kai Sloggett here, currently having to try and find the defence, and ultimately doesn't find it, so down the inside went Mulqueen, looking to make the move, and it seems that they're going to have to hold it too wide. Any sort of dramas here? No, I think that's just a clean overtake we've managed to catch on our cameras, and it is. So good move there, and through goes Damon Mulqueen, who picks up a position. So well done to him, but
very nice.
For the time being at least, this race still far from over. Jason Hyde has caught back up to where he needs to, as has Todd Parks, but again struggling through the tower corner, and it seems that the airspace says Brett Hender is still got a little bit more ahead of you.
Yeah, certainly. We take a look at Jason Hyde, meanwhile, on the broadcast, and Damian Johnston continuing to just let Scott Larnack skip away. This is the battle for 10th, and Kinman is closer to Wallace than he's ever been.
Yeah, he is. I just caught an eye on Jordan Gallagher, who's lapped traffic there. I thought that was a mistake, but David Kinman's still very much close and still very much waiting as they drop almost a second a lap at this stage on the other drivers around them. But look at Johnstone now. They're almost serpentining their way around this track. Jason Hyde will not be shook from the draft behind, and look how deep he goes into turn number 1. Two contrasting styles, but certainly a lot quicker is Jason Hyde through that section. Big angle to the inside, but that was way too aggressive on the steering angle, as now the mistakes start coming from Johnstone. His tyres are shot.
Yeah. Through this section of the circuit, you can see Hyde much more aggressive, carrying more momentum through the turn. This is definitely going to be a move on at the hairpin. If Hyde can keep up the traction, no! Tank slapper! Huge tank slapper from Jason Hyde. How did he hold that? Oh, I don't even want to guess.
You see this tank? This baby can hold a whole load of sideways, and that is a great save from Jason Hyde. Done so well to hold it, but that is the level they are pushing these tyres to. They are going to amazing levels. And look at this, big dive down to the inside when they come to Cunningham Corner, and you know what? It's a big, well, have it, says Damian Johnstone. I've got nothing left.
And Hyde now well and truly ahead and starting to gap Johnstone on pure acceleration alone. That's something that Hyde has been waiting to do for quite some time. Got the lap car Jordan Gallagher in front of him, but apart from that, I feel like that's all Hyde will be able to do in this one, but he'll still be very happy about it.
And now behind, Darren McKenzie, Scott Clark, Rob Harris and Josh Pickett, all in a scrap at the moment. This one for the top 15 is just in front of that. There's Todd Parks going. He's going to try and get the move done on Brett Hender. And with 2 laps to go when they cross the line, can he get the run on the outside to continue this one? Oh, around you go. Todd Parks, bang into the tyres, and that ends it.
Yeah, and he'll still be able to get that thing going, I think. I hope, maybe. He's staying there. Don't know if he's asking for a tow from race control, but we're going to take another look at this move. Hender had an awful lot more mid-corner speed. No contact. Parks did that all on his own.
And that's the worst bit. He's been showing signs, and that one has really cost him. David Kinman's struggling now. I reckon he's having to fuel save here because he's not comfortable with how he's going through. He's dropped off of Justin Wallace, but if Kinman's having to fuel save, I have to wonder what Justin Wallace is having to do at this stage, and that is push as hard as possible. So we'll keep an eye on that one as this battle continues with Brett Hender, because Mackenzie's caught up now after all of that. Clark, Harris and Pickett all there, and let's not forget Riley Blythe in control of this one with a lap and a bit to go.
Yeah, we haven't given much publicity to the leaders so far. They've just been so far out ahead. But Riley Blythe with a 6.9 second lead over his teammate James Scott. And those Team Hyperdrive cars back down in the field. This is the 1-2 that they really like to see down there in the field. But they've worked very hard for it. Have both of those guys.
They have done, and they have done very well in this position to hold their control, but the white flag will come out now for the 67 machine. This is Riley Blythe, who holds control of this field, has done since the drop of the green flag after making a great start compared to the likes of James Scott, who bogged down horrifically, and this race certainly far from over for the podium as well. Remember, the fuel game is very much still on. That battle for the top 13th now down is still very much alive and kicking as we keep an eye on everything that's going on. Kinman under pressure, and we know that Wallace will now go to the very, very end. So Kinman, Cooper and Perkins as well in that 4th, 5th and 6th place battle. Scott Clark as well, just a little bit behind. He heads through Sunset Bend, not in position just yet to go out there and make a move at the corner with 1004 lines, but ultimately this is going to have to come down to last lap battles and last lap scraps here. Kinman, though, heading through turn number 5, looking at 6 and 7 right now, just holds himself that good half a second gap over Gary Cooper. Go out there that he has been looking for so long, and I just reckon that he hasn't had the pace to go out there and make it happen. Lance Perkins has finally caught onto the rear, but too late, son. Too late, 078. So now he will have to just sit and wait. Hope there is some dramas towards the end. But through the tower corner comes Riley Blythe. He's only got half of the lap remaining. He's already gone through 3 of the 5 kilometers, or 3 of the 6 kilometers have already come along at this track. Enough can block, rounding his way towards the Ullman Straight through the Le Mans section. He comes along right now, the right, left, right, and he can cruise it from here because he knows he's only got 1 corner to go. After this, still Kinman, not close enough to deal with Lance Perkins, but we'll see what the fuel number is going to be like and whether it was genius strategy in play. But like it was a year ago, it is going to be a victory for an Evolution Racing Team vehicle. Riley Blythe rounding Sunset Bend. He is going to find himself in victory lane unless he spins it up off the exit. He doesn't. Riley Blythe will move himself to split one's worth of racing here in V8 SCOPS as he wins here at Sebring. It's James Scott who will get second. Questions now on Justin Wallace. Does he have enough oomph to get himself over the line? It looks like he very much will do, and he will take 3rd position with some great driving to end this one off. He played the fuel game perfectly as 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th go in. That battle for 15th, well, there is a chance of a last lunge there from Darren McKenzie, but he's just not close enough. But behind, hello Rob Harris, he's got 1, he's got 2, because Scott Clark, I think, has just run himself and sold himself short.
Yeah, seems that way. Harris ahead, coming across the start-finish line. I thought for sure that was going to be a big smash, but oh my goodness, have a look behind them. Jamie McKnight and Kai Sloggett battling as well for 18th. What a finish to this race all throughout the field. Beautiful performance from all of our podium sitters, and the racing throughout the field definitely turned it on. I mean, that's why we love Sebring.
That is why we love Sebring. So official classified results, then let's get them up on your screen, because this is how everything has finished at the Sebring International Raceway. Riley Blythe, it was a formality in the end. He takes a commanding victory in the Evolution Racing Team car, 1-2, with James Scott finishing 7.2 seconds back, with Justin Wallace holding out with great strategy to take third position, a gain of 5 places. David Kinman takes fourth with Gary Cooper in 5th position. It's Lance Perkins who gets 6th after dropping back from 2nd. Sean Thompson and Dion Peters make 8th.
Making 9th is Scott Larnack for TTL Esports. Unfortunate race for him. Jason Hyde rounding out the top 10, storming drive from 18th on the grid. Damian Johnston has to settle for 11th, as Matt Stratford for 12th. Brett Hender finishes lucky 13th from outside the top 20. Darren McKenzie right behind him. Rob Harris makes it 15th at the last corner, and Josh Pickett rounding out the top 16.
Scott Clark loses 2 positions in the final corner. He gets 17th with Damon Mulqueen in 18th, a loss of just 1 place. Joel Kenton gets 19th with Jamie McKnight, finally getting the top 20 on the final corner, and that is a big gain of 0 places that he's managed to get in this race. Kai Sloggett up 10 positions. He gets 21st with Grant Keynes and Sean Dunn 22nd and 23rd. Good run from Dunn, up 12 places. Alex Greenwood drops 10, though, back to 24th.
Jamie Stovold in 25th with Bruce Kiley 26th. Shane Evans, another gainer, making his way up to 27th from 32nd. Brenton O'Brien, one of the horror stories from this one. He's all the way down in 28th after starting well within the top 20, nearly the top 10. Crawford, Parks, Casey, and Christensen rounding out your top 32 here.
Yes, then you start hitting drivers who are many laps down or failed to finish, and those include Scott O'Keefe, Jordan Gallagher, and Benjamin Smith. So those are the unlucky drivers who couldn't get it all the way home today, but we're going to step aside very briefly here on the iRacing Esports Network. When we come back, post-race coverage coming to you from this beautiful, beautiful track of Sebring as we gear up towards qualifying for race 1.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMary at the line.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS series. And my goodness me, what great racing we saw in the opening racing of the night. Not necessarily the barn burner that many had been expecting, but still one of those races, Reese, where we can sit down and say, well, they drove very solid lines. They had themselves respectable battles up and down the field, and ultimately some good finishes to boot came out of it.
It's everything that you expected out of a race from Sebring, and besides that, you couldn't ask for more. It was a fun event for sure. That little 20-lap sprint, but now, oh my goodness, the distance has been more than doubled, and we're going to get ready in overcast conditions now for this next session. Split 1 action coming up very soon.
And talking about overcast conditions here, Reese, because they are so important to the way that these drivers are going out there, the way that they're racing, the way they conduct themselves in qualifying. I remember even just last week or so at Zolder for AOSC, and the fact that we saw how in fluctuating conditions, times could drop by nearly half a second to 3/4 of a second over the course of a lap. This is a 2-minute lap here. This is going to be maybe seeing times drop maybe by half a second to a second, depending on condition.
Yeah, Sebring's one of those tracks where you need to get almost every corner as perfect as you can, but it's a seemingly insurmountable task. It's like the Nürburgring. You will attack each turn just a little bit differently every single lap, and you'll almost never be able to pull off the perfect lap at Sebring due to all the bumps and surface changes. So overcast conditions provide a very good opportunity for the drivers to push their cars as hard as they can, see what kind of times they are capable of, not having to worry as much as they would in hot conditions about losing grip.
Yes, exactly, and we're going to be seeing these drivers now trying to make that push here in towards qualifying and make sure that they have a very good run of things here at a very cloudy airbase, which is going to lead to maybe some turbulent time for a few drivers up and down this one. We unfortunately do not have a driver here from Split 2 waiting for interview here, Reese, but what has to be said is it's concentration mode, I think, for Riley Blight. I think he just wants to get his head down, and I think he just wants to go out there and put in some good times.
That's it. That's the only thing he can do at the moment. We're in the middle of a 20-minute practice session, just coming up on 10 minutes to go. So Blythe, all he has to do is make sure that he keeps driving to the conditions, and the result will come to him. That's we've seen varying levels of success from our Split 2 winners over the course of the seasons that we've been doing this kind of setup in this series. But Blythe is one of those drivers that can make it work.
Certainly is, and we've seen how Split 2 winners traditionally have a very good run in races like these, and they have always managed to pull themselves out with a few very strong positions. So we'll see how that certainly plays into the mind of those drivers as we are halfway through practice and qualifying will be coming along in about 10 minutes or so, just under, that we are starting to see. One of the big news stories that's actually come out the last couple of weeks or so has been the collapse of the Aussie driver search after they have gone into liquidation. So how will that be playing into the minds of the likes of Glenn Postlethwaite, Ethan Grigalt, Jake Burton and co, as that becomes a massive distraction to racing here at Sebring?
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate event down here in Australia just a few days ago, and the likes of Burton, Grigalt, Posey, it would be weighing on their minds, but they have a task at hand, which is this race. and I feel like that's going to take over their minds for the foreseeable future. It was a it was a big shame to see the program go under, and a lot of people have been affected by that. So we do wish them all the best. Of course, for Jake Burton, the biggest change is he has to run a different logo on his car for this round.
Certainly does. Being a privateer, he's going to have to find something maybe a little bit more astute that he wants to be running then for the next runs. He's got a virtual racing school livery on for this one, so nice to see that he's giving a bit more sponsor time the same way that, shall we say, the Trans-Tasman car is very much giving exactly that same level of sponsorship runs as well. So I think what drivers are now starting to look at here is how do we adjust to these conditions? How do we make that push into getting into that next level? Because we are seeing drivers maybe that we haven't normally seen so far now starting to creep their way in. First driver that has been making great times, but is, I think, the first time he's raced this season, I believe, is John Emerson.
Yeah, John Emerson, he's taken a few breaks over the years. He's one of those veteran drivers in the AusNZ sim racing community, been a part of TTL Esports for God knows how long, and
but not
occasionally...
anymore.
Yes, Team Hyperdrive is the team that he's driving for in this one. Currently sitting in 21st on the timesheets. He's as capable as anyone is John. He's won a fair few races in his time. Looking forward to seeing how he'll do with that new team setup.
Yep, and we will see how that one plays out in terms of what he is going to be able to do. Just had notification come in that Ross Rizzo is not racing this one, so he's done the wrong thing, which every sim racer has done at some stage, and that is to join the race as a driver instead of a spectator. It happens to the best of us.
It certainly does. It's definitely happened to me more than once. Tiny mistake for Emerson there, but he keeps it going. Another driver I want to draw attention to here, Sperry, is Andrew Gilliam in the 201. He's sitting third on the timesheets as he pounds his way around the circuit at the moment. Sun's out, but lap time's quick for Mr. Gilliam.
They are quick for Mr. Gilliam. He wants to showcase that his lap times are going to be incredibly quick, and here is someone who is probably putting in the most amount of work, full stop, into a Australian touring car at the moment, because Gilliam right now, I've probably seen him about 3 or 4 separate different series. So the question becomes, how much time is being taken away right now from Gilliam by doing all these little different leagues, and should he be now concentrating down his focus into making sure SCOPS is as good as possible?
Well, it depends on the person, really. You know, as sim racers, we all have different priorities. Some of us may do this for a bit of fun. Some of us may try to race in as much as we possibly can because we just love our racing. Gilliam might be one of those drivers.
Let's talk championship now for the moment. Madison Down in the 77 made big grounds as he now moves himself up into 3rd position in practice with a very good time there in the Trans-Tasman racing machine. This is what we're starting to look at now. We've gone through the entrees and the starters, so to say. This is the meat and potatoes of the season. You want to make a championship challenge? These are the results that you get in. They're not the most glamorous races. They're not the most exciting tracks in the world. But if you can get your results in here and get your results in now, this is where the season forms. And it was at this point last year where Phil Sell went on an absolute tear and won practically everything under the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Sell has been one of those drivers that's almost a Vettel or Hamilton-like dominance of the series. All he had to do was qualify up the front and then drive away from everyone, and that's how his success came to him, Phil Sell. When he's out the front in a car that is to his liking, he's practically unstoppable. So the drivers behind him, they're definitely going to be wanting to find any cracks they can in that armor. He is the reigning champion after all.
Very much is that V8 champion, and he knows how to make everything work for him. So we will see how this one is going to play out in terms of what he is able to do. So we'll see what Phil Sell can muster up. He's currently the fastest man in practice at the moment. Drivers who have maybe not had the starts to seasons that maybe we were expecting. 215 definitely comes into mind. Altus Esports, Sam Blacklock, a driver who, on his day, is very capable of picking up podiums. Got one last year at Mosport, but really has been tepid, to say the least.
Yeah, Sam Blacklock and Altus Esports in the V8 as a whole, they haven't quite lived up to the potential that that a lot of people were thinking they would in the lead up to the season. Dane Warren back out here as well. Good to see him racing again, but both of those guys are newer to Altus Esports, having only joined the team at the start of this year. So it's still difficult times ahead. They still might be able to turn their season around, but I honestly don't know how it's going to go.
Well, we are certainly going to see how this one ends up and how this one is going to finish up for a lot of drivers. So this is going to be the case that they are going to be making here. How good is my run today? How good is my qualifying going to be today? And how much can I affect myself in terms of racing at the very, very top? Something that we haven't seen too much this season of is a female presence, but seeing as the last couple of races we haven't seen any female drivers, it's a bit like London buses. We get two at once, as both Emily Jones and Mariuszka will take to the grid for this one and have their racing action start here today. So we wish both of them the best of luck, and it is nice to see a bit of a female presence on the grid, especially with the likes of, say, the women's series starting up and many other drivers now starting to make their presence known across sim racing and real racing.
Yeah, 3 female drivers on the TTR Australia grid this weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park. Debut round of that series. And if you're an Australian motorsport fan, reckon that's definitely something to watch out for. But Emily Jones and Mariuszka, they're quite experienced in this series, both of them having made their fair share of starts. And Jones, in particular, is the one who has shown the most potential, I'd argue. But with TTR going through the dramas they have over the last 6 months or so, they're still trying to find their feet, apart from Madison Down.
Yeah, they are still trying to find that feet, and they are trying to showcase exactly what they are capable of. So we will see how that one is going to play out for them. But this is certainly nothing too out there at the moment, I think, for a lot of drivers. We do see a little bit of a moment there right from the
Fairly certain that's not the racing line through Big Bend.
No, I definitely don't think it is. I have just managed, though, in all my stalling, to get the championship standings up on my own screen. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get it otherwise. It is Ethan Grigolt's championship lead at the moment. He is currently holding that one by 42 points over Madison Down. Phil Sell a further 5 back than that. Then it's Ian Ford and Forzan El Nabi who make the top 5 in the championship at the moment. So the big thing is those 85 penalty points that came to Jared Philsell at round 2 of the championship. That has been the big changer in this one, and that is what he is trying to fight back. 85 full points, but we'll see how this one plays out then as we head to the next bit of our session. It's qualifying time in just a moment, Reese, and as we all know, open season format. This is going to be a real treat.
For sure. 20 minutes of drivers pounding around Sebring trying to go as fast as they can. This is the kind of stuff that I like to see. And these Australian touring cars, they're big, heavy beasts. They're powerful ones as well. They have slick tyres, but they weigh 1,500 kilograms and produce 650 horsepower from those 5-litre V8 engines. They are a handful around any track. So to see them at 110% around Sebring, let's go. Field's going out.
Yes, and it is championship leader who is in control of said field, Ethan Grigolt. He's had the collapse of Aussie Driver Search to deal with over the course of this week. So, but is his mind somewhere else, or can he focus himself at a track which last year, Reese, he really struggled at? He started getting a bit too aggressive, had the pressure of the championship, trying to keep it alive on his shoulders, and ultimately made some uncanny errors compared to what he is capable of doing. This is now in the middle of the season, a lot different, a different format, maybe more suiting to the Grigolt style.
Yeah, I think he'll be enjoying himself a lot more this round than the last time we went to Central Florida. I mean, Ethan Griggold, he was in contention for the championship, and Sebring was where he effectively lost it last season. So, being in the championship lead coming into the round at this track this time round certainly pays dividends for him. It'll the motivation will be at an all-time high, I reckon.
Oh, you bet it will, but look who's 2 cars back. With only Marlon McMullen in the middle, Madison down will try and pick up as much draft as possible to make the push. Brady Myers has looked very, very strong for Simworks TTL. We'll see how he is going to be making that charge up through the field. Richard Hampstead's season has sputtered towards a start as his championship run, well, it really doesn't look for good reading at the moment. He's down in 20th in the championship at the moment, already 600 points. Oh, nearly 700 behind Ethan Griggold. That shows you just how much Hampstead has struggled and has been on the back foot. Remember, those championship standings I just gave to you, they do not contain drop weeks. There are drop weeks available. There are 3 of them, which cannot be taken at the final round at Elkhart Lake, Road America. But this is where you start making your name, and this is where Ethan Griggold starts his first flying lap. Let's take you on board with the 117. This is a lap around Sebring's 5.95 kilometer 17 turn circuit under the Chevrolet footbridge and into turn number 1, dropping all the way down more and more. 152k for putting the power down. Bit of curb, bit of grass on the exit there. Has to be careful about that. On the brakes then, left-hander of 3. There you get this switchback section 4, and then you head yourself over to turn 5. A little bit of a line being given there by the differing track surface before you hit the big bender 6. Always difficult to put the power down on very old tyres. They will play a factor over the course of racing. We are seeing times come in. They are not representative. Use the cones on the left-hand side as braking markers. On the brakes, into the right-hander as 7, and he's just overcutting the corner just a little bit. Griggold is pushing hard as he makes his way to Fangio and Cunningham.
Indeed, it's a flat-out blast through Fangio. Used to be more of a chicane, but it was straightened out at the end of the 20th century. On the brakes early for Cunningham. Just bouncing off the curb, just kissing it for Ethan Griggold. And then the run up to Tower used to be one of the most significant turns on the circuit, and it's now running the opposite direction to what it used to. Taking that apex, a little bit of a dip in the road, don't want to run too much into the gravel so you get a good run down this section. You're straight lining it across the curbs, putting almost the whole car on these curbs so you can get on the brakes as straight as you can for the Le Mans complex. Again, Ethan Griggold riding over the curbs. The car looks beautifully poised. And then on the throttle in 3rd gear, all the way over the curb. Now he's got to psych himself up for Sunset Bend.
Certainly does, and well, it's the corner of 1,004 lines. Which one's the right one? Well, who really does know? On the brakes then, as he gets nice and tight in on entry. It's a double apex corner as well, which makes life even more difficult as you take the second part of the corner, and away he goes, and across the line he will try and push. Looked like a pretty decent lap there, maybe pushed a little bit, but he does a 2:02 flat to set the benchmark as Madison down just falls a little bit behind. Jordan Ross is in a Holden for the first time in a little while as Hampstead goes 3rd, Kelly goes 4th, Myers and Ellis are 2 wide as Lee Ellis has gone to 5th, but Phil Sell takes the pole. 2:019, he's done what he's done, but Dane Warren goes quicker. Where did he come from? 2:018, Warren came to play.
You know what? And this is something that V8SCOPS buffs will definitely remember. It was at Sebring a few seasons ago where Dane Warren first showed his potential. He did take a pole position and he was leading and fighting for the win in the Sebring race a long time back. So he might have returned to form here, Dane. Have a look at the gap. It's a 10th over Phil Sell. At the start of the session, that's what you need.
It certainly is, and Phil Sell is not akin to being position number 2. Jake Burton is up in 3rd as the likes of Glenn Postlethwaite goes 20th position right now. Your top 10 looks like a who's who right now of Australian sim racing. Warren, Phil Sell, Burton, Griggold down, Hampstead, Elnaby, Ford, Warren, Kelly. I can tell you this right now, that inside of the top 7 positions are 6 different teams or factions, you could say, at this stage. So that really does show you that it is a who's who as everyone tries to get themselves into position. With these overcast conditions, drivers up and down this field will be wanting to get those times in. Likes of Brady Myers is yet to set a time. Likes of Brad Ratu, Jack Boyd, yet to put those times in, as well as Thomas McMillan, who has moved to Mega Black Racing. Once again, another new team for him. But my goodness me, this is going to be a very interesting qualifying session, and I wonder if you can get that second lap in. I wonder if it is going to work, as I'm just keeping that eye on Madison down, seeing if he's going for that second lap or if he's going to dive in. Both drivers going to dive down in onto the lane. Griggolt stayed out, but you can see 4/10 off of his first time.
Yes, indeed. Ethan Griggolt currently sitting in 4th in the timesheets there. But that first phase of qualifying, I guess you could call it, now over. And if you have just started watching V8SCOPS full stop, you will notice they are touring through the pit lane in the qualifying session, which isn't considered quote-unquote normal in sim racing. But we do have a no escape rule, which means you have to return to the pits after you complete a lap.
Certainly do. Michael Barron, let's go on board with him. He is Mark 1. He has decided to go to, so we'll see what he's going to be able to accomplish then with the slight team change away from the Redback Racing faction now, as they get new ideas. But I believe he's come down onto pit road and will not continue on his lap. So this is going to be very tough for a lot of drivers. On the 38 as well, Jack Boyd has yet to set a time in his very pretty pink livery. As we all know, pink things go fast, so we'll see what the 38 is going to be able to do, as he is gearing up, I think, for a lap, or he's on one.
Yeah, currently went through Cunningham Bend and really fighting that car on the run up to Tower. I reckon we're going to... Oh, goodness, that's not the right line to take. What's going on, Jack? Whoa, he is really pushing that thing.
He is. He's maybe just pushing a little bit too much here. He gets himself up on the curb, and ultimately just has to be a little bit careful about how he's attacking this track, because this is one of the few tracks where you can say, yes, you can attack, but there are a couple of high curbs around here which aren't really attack-worthy materials. So this track does, on occasion, bite back the same way that the new Abu Dhabi bit back for the World Rallycross.
Yeah, for sure. Particularly down in the middle section of the lap, and here where Thomas McMillan is at the moment. That turn 6, I believe, complex. Very high curbs through there. Coming down to the hairpin as well. This is another one of those sequences that you will not be able to do the same lap after lap. You don't know how you're going to come up to the apex when you get on the brakes of that corner. McMillan did all right, but he'll probably still be thinking that there's time to be found.
There is time to be found, of course. Thomas McMillan is certainly someone who needs time to be found, because he's not found any time at the moment as he gets on the brakes into the Cunningham corner and looking to try and make his push up through the field and showcase exactly what he's all about. We've seen that McMillan has pace. We know that McMillan has pace, but McMillan has the unfortunate tendency of finding himself in one or two incidents that maybe could very much be avoided. So 248's got to find something inside him that's going to give him that chance, or really I don't see him going anywhere and losing motivation. Perhaps this may be the last chance saloon for Thomas McMillan's career.
Well, I wouldn't speak so soon. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few rounds of the series, but McMillan, he does want a bit of a fresh start going to Mega Black, so it's all about the psychological aspect of it as well. McMillan, I think, he really wants to get his sim racing career on track and make sure that he can get those results. He has built up a bit of a reputation for himself in the past that he is trying to shake off. Let's see what his lap time is. It's going to be in the 202s, and that is 18th for him. In the top 20, that's not too bad, all things considered.
That's respectable. It is respectable. That's good work then, as he will now look to try and make his runs, as all these drivers now get on their next flying laps and try and get through. But the sun comes out, not tomorrow, but today, and this is going to be hurting everyone's lap times. That track's come up 2 degrees, and if you're gonna find some time, you're gonna need a worldie now if you're gonna set that up. So halfway around the lap, the sun comes out. There's not much you can do against that, really, here. You're pretty much at the lap of the sim racing gods at that point. And likes of, say, number 1, Jared Filsell, 33, Jake Burton, maybe even likes of 28, Richard Hampstead, all need to find time and find improvements, which they simply put aren't finding when the sun's out like this.
That's it. That half of the circuit that Burton's just come into is still out of the sunlight. So he might be able to just eke back a couple of hundredths, but I don't think that's going to be a quicker lap time for him. Let's see how he goes through Sunset Bend if he decides to just abandon the run and go into the pits. He is looking kind of slow at the mid-corner.
That's a give up.
Yeah, there we go.
That was a give up. Ian Ford doesn't, though. He's on a 2:02.3 in 8th position. He's right up there in the championship, and he does a 2:02.4, so he's ever so marginally slower as the likes of Forzan El Nabi, I think, has just, as we see drivers starting to move position. Sam Blacklock's found time. He's up into 7th position, so he's done very well with that one. So there are drivers finding something then with the slightly increasing conditions. Scott Kozlowski, 9th in the championship. He's up inside the top 20. So some good times being found then by those who are willing to push the boundaries on the opening half of that lap. But most drivers maybe not quite finding it. Glenn Postlethwaite across the line does a nothing.
Yeah, and Ethan Warren we're taking a look at the moment. Currently in position 11. Making his way through Sunset Bend. A 2:02.4 is what he needs to beat, and with the latter half of the circuit out of the sun, he's just going to abandon that one as well. That's disappointing. How is the Eggman going to do?
Well, how is the Eggman going to do? John Emerson decides that he dives down onto pit road. Ethan Grigoltz 1:17 is now heading himself through now a very darkened circuit. So that cloud cover, it was only disappeared for about a minute, but it has killed everybody or almost everyone's run. There on that second run through, we have got ourselves 7.5 minutes before the end of this qualifying session, and everybody knows that they have to find some times and they have to find them quick. Greg Galt in 4th is one of those drivers trying to push it. Drives who are surprisingly down the order right now. Brett Loxton, has to be said, 19th position, not where he wants to be, 9/10 off of pole. Here's the driver who took pole position in the opening round of the championship. Don't tell me he was one and done. We know he's got pace.
Yeah, for sure. Brett Loxton is one of those drivers that you know has talent. He's really started to show it mainly at Montreal, but we've seen him at Bathurst as well. He does well at those sorts of events. So, I don't know, maybe it's the track, maybe it's the conditions. We can't be sure, but Loxton, he knows that he can do better than that.
2:02.787, his best time, and he set it on his last run through. So that pretty much tells you all you need to know. He is starting to gear up and find time in this qualifying session. Remember, he got his time in late at Montreal, the opening round of the season, but he dives onto pit road as Piccadilly Circus starts kicking off once again as Dave Warren keeps going, as we are seeing no drivers at the moment on flying laps, everyone on an out lap. This is one of the things about this Sebring track. It's so long. Keep an eye on Madison down in the 77 right now, who looks to start his flying lap. This track is so long that you only have probably about 7 opportunities to set a flying lap, whereas at other tracks you'd have maybe 14, 15 with how short the lap is.
That said, a lap at Sebring is just over 2 minutes in these cars, where most of the circuits we race at, you'd see lap times in the 120s to 140s. So the drivers do have to keep an eye on that lap count. You take a look at the lap count for the race, 42 laps. It doesn't seem like all that much, but multiply that by 5.95 kilometers, that will give you over 250. This is going to be a race that goes for about 90 minutes, and the drivers need to remember that.
They certainly do, and they understand that with 42 laps worth of racing, it's effectively a split 2 or 2 split 2s and just a bit of spare change more for a green-white checker, as it were. So down, heading himself through the Cunningham corner now, and he is just being effortless with the way that he's driving. He wants to have a championship challenge. He wants to prove that Trans-Tasman is still the force that they once were, and he proved that at Phillip Island, where they certainly did have a very nice set last year and this year as well. But at the moment, he needs to find himself maybe 2.5 tenths to get back by Dane Warren, and he only needs to find himself 16 thousandths to jump up past Ethan Grigoldt.
Yes, indeed. Not much time in it for Madison Down, so this is going to be one of those elements of the lap that's really important, the run onto Ullman Straight. I did notice, yeah, very smooth, that lap so far from Madison Down. He's just pushing ever so slightly, but not so much that he'd overheat the tyres. Super smooth on the run down into Sunset Bend, super tight at the apex as well. And that's going to be abandoned once again. Drivers not happy with how the track is at the moment.
Well, it is slightly heating up track surface, but track condition in terms of temperature, it's exactly where it was. Here's Stenny though, Kurt Stenberg, 47. He almost had the ignominy of going into split 2 last round out, but he will now look to set a flying lap on his next run through, as a lot of drivers are looking to try and get those runs. Look at Emily Jones as well. She's on the back of Sam Blacklock trying to pick up some draft. She does a 2:02.9, which puts her up into 22nd position, which is good, as Jordan Ross has moved up a little bit, a lot of bit, I do believe, and he finds himself in 19th position right now after his time, which is still not what he was quite looking for.
No, we take a look at Jared Filsell, though, coming out of Le Mans. Tiny bit of oversteer, but he's got that car beautifully under control on exit. Evolution Racing team, they put a lot of effort in this year with Filsell coming into the team. ERT already one of the most dedicated teams in the field, but with Filsell coming in, it's really lifted their game, especially compared to the latter half of last year. Jared Filsell, another abandoned lap.
Yes, and he's not quite finding what he needs, and he's got to be in and out very quickly, because we are with 2.5 minutes left to go, so it will be a power lap around Sebring just to get another lap in, and Ethan Warren's day is done with that spin. He will not go any further in terms of times. You feel that those who are out on track right about now need to find themselves with one more flying lap underneath them, as I'm looking at Jordan Ross. He is almost pushing Lee Ellis around, and he is, and I think he's just trying to say, look son, get out of the way, I'm trying to put a lap together here, and now I've got to go out there and do it again, as the 2-minute warning comes up on the clock. So those who are out on track now are going to go for it. Those who've come into pit road, that is McMullen and Webster, their days are done. Filsell's only just got back out on track. This will be very touch and go to see if he can get another lap in. I reckon he may just not.
Yeah, not quite sure, eh? It's you really got to plan ahead at Sebring because of the track length. A session like this, and especially with the no escape rule, you got to count your out laps and your in laps. The Altus guys coming back in again, followed by a TTR. No one is happy with their laps right now. I think we may not see much in the way of action for the rest of the session unless Ian Ford can say something about it. He's currently in the top 10 and pulling over. Oh my goodness.
And
We want to see some times, people. Come on.
Well, there are times, so Ian Ford's not going to find anything. Andrew Gilliam might, though. He's in third at the moment. He's on an outlap, so he will have one flying opportunity. And, he runs incredibly wide. He's trying to get all of the track, try and make this lap work, and he puts the power down, and that elongated line gives him the maximum run. Look at that full commitment on the exit of Sunset Bend, and he now looks to go and start his flying lap as he's got 45 seconds left on the clock. Corey Preston makes his way over the line. Does he find improvements? No, it's an outlap, so he will try and go through. Hobbo 88 on an outlap. He's on 15th, and we are starting these drivers now trying to get their times in, trying to get some improvements. Jack Boyd does not find it. Where is Filsell? Out on track, back straight. He may just make it here with 20 seconds to go. In fact, he should make it here, and he will be one of the last drivers across the line to start a final flying lap. This is one lap shootout now with just 10 seconds on the clock. Can he get the power down? This is going to be mighty tight, but I think he may just get there. 5 seconds on the clock, 4 and 3 and 2, and he's timed it perfectly. He gets the time in, and he will go and have one lap left. Timer expires. Anyone on track now has this and this only to try and finish it. Kurt Stenberg will be the first across the line. We'll see what he can do. He's down in 47th position right now. He's the number 47. Goodness me. He's down in 31st right now, and he's looking to try and find himself maybe a bit of improvement. He does not find it. Griffin Gardner is just behind him in 32nd at the moment in the Simworks TTL car. Abandon ship, please. Brady Myers, who is in 18th. He looked like he had some pace, but he will not find anything more. Lee Ellis, go Lee, in 16th at the moment. He's had a good qualifying run. They've been told to get their finger out at Trans-Tasman.
And Phil Sell's lap is gone.
Get it. Oh, and Phil Sell's gone.
No
That is that. So a mistake there, and that cost him the lap. What about Jake Burton, 33, 2021? He's just short, so he won't find it. Bird won't find time, nor will Postlethwaite. Brett Loxton tries to find some improvements in the 209, and he does a 202.631. He moves marginally
Madison
up to
to
20th.
pole!
Madison, though, what a lap! 201.814, and he snipes a pole position away from Dane Warren. Heart stolen, and that is beautiful from a reigning not a reigning champion, but a champion in his own right. Hobo 88 then, currently in 15th. Can he find improvement? Marginally, not for position though. That's very, very crucial. Taliancic in, Boyd in, Christian Smart in, Barron will very much be in. What about Jordan Ross? He's down in 19th position at the moment, and he's looking for a bit more, as is Scott Zlowski, but I think Jordan Ross's lap is all but done. Zlowski then 22nd at the moment for Trick Sim Sport, and he will abandon his lap as well. Ethan Grigalt is out on track and looking for a lap time. Is he? No, he's coming down onto pit road, or is he? Yes, he is. Phil Sell's done as well. Grid as follows. It's Madison down on pole position then in the dying stages of qualifying. 201.814. Dane Warren will have second. He set the early pace, but he will be upset that his time was bested. It's Jared Philsell starting from the second row. How often do we say that? Jake Burton alongside him in fourth. Ethan Grigalt starts from fifth with Richard Hamstead in sixth. Sam Blacklock has a great time in seventh with Forzan El Nabi. Eighth, it's Ian Ford and Josh Muggleton on row 5.
Ethan Warren lining up in position 11. Sean Kelly in P12. Andrew Gilliam in 13th. Lucky 13, Andrew. Let's see how you do. Cooper Webster won here last year. He starts from 14th. Hobo 88 in 15th. And Go Lee in 16th. Chris Coxhead, Brady Myers, Jordan Ross, and Brett Loxton round out the top 20.
Blackjack goes for Michael Barron with Scott Zlowski in 22nd. Then it's Thomas McMillan and Jack Boyd on row 12. Row 13, we'll see Emily Jones and John Emerson, with Mario Rushka just behind in 27th. Glenn Postlethwaite down in 28th. Brad Ratu and David Sanford make row 15.
And in 31st, we got Kurt Stenberg, Griffin Gardner joining him on that row. Michael Taliancic lining up alongside Marlon McMullen, Ian Bird, and Riley Blythe as well. Michael Cracknell, Corey Preston, and in 39th and 40th, we got Tom Freer and Christian Smart.
Certainly do, and that rounds out the grid's worth of racing then, so these drivers know that's what they have been able to do, and we'll see how this one works. So Madison down in control at the front of the field. We've seen how starts have not been brilliant, but ERT from third position earlier on today had an absolute stormer. Maybe Jared Philsell can find the magic formula or the magic software that gives him the great start that maybe he is capable of in the number one. Watch out for 33 Jake Burton. He's going to look to push, as is the championship leader Ethan Grigalt. He has been there on consistency, but hasn't really found too much, which has said victories are going to be a regular occurrence. Hamstead needs to get his season back on track, as does Sam Blacklock. All of these drivers up and down the field know that this opening lap is going to be so treacherous on cold tyres and cold track as well. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this one is going to be 42 laps worth of hard action here in Australian touring cars. This is the championship you want to be up at the top at. Eyes on Madison down. 2 minutes then. Up on the clock. Lights on top of the iRacing gantry. And Sebring is underway. Good start then from Madison down. Little bit bogged down from Dane Warren. This will allow Philsell the chance to attack, and there is a gap open. Covering off is Jake Burton then in fourth position. He does not want Grigalt to find a way through. Philsell has to back out of it slightly. Hamstead going around the outside then as Blacklock almost taps the wall at turn number 1. Still though, Philsell tries to attack with Dane Warren. He'll have the inside at turn number 3. Warren a little bit caught off guard here, and he's now going to have to defend through 4 and 5. Hamstead still trying to go around the outside, but ultimately now 5's going to come along. Philsell still trying to battle it out. They remain too wide. Down's got the breakaway that he's wanted, but look at this. Warren refusing to give give up against the champion. This is the Dane Warren we wanted to see after victory in the reverse race at Interlagos a month or two ago. On the brakes into the hairpin. Can Phil Sell respond? They remain too wide for almost half a lap, but finally it's sorted.
Yeah, Dane Warren, with that traction, he's going to draw out enough of a gap, hopefully for him, before the next bend. Side by side behind them, meanwhile, Richard Hampstead versus Ethan Grigalt coming into Cunningham. And Sam Blacklock trying to get in on it as well. Oh, Ian Ford almost getting into the back of Forzan El Nabi as well. Drivers jostling, but for the most part, we're seeing most of them stay on the track.
We certainly are. It's been a clean start, and that's what everyone has been hoping for then over 42 laps worth of racing. A good start then from everyone as the front four have firmly broken away. It's down Warren, Phil Sell, Burton. They have remained unchanged off of the start. Richard Hampstead is the driver up into 5th position right now. Ethan Grigalt losing ground off of the start. He's got to be careful about that. As look at the train back from Richard Hampstead. Tells you just how exciting the racing is. It goes all the way back to Hobbo 88. It's a 10-car pack just behind as slowdowns come into play.
Yeah, Andrew Gilliam, one of the drivers, suffering from that. Also Jordan Ross, Lee Ellis, and Brady Myers too. So a little bit of shuffling going on down the back straight. That's going to be very awkward for quite a few drivers. And Sunset Bend is becoming a bit of a war zone at the moment.
It was. I was looking at Glenn Postlethwaite, and he had to go to the inside of Andrew Gilliam to try and get around Brett Loxton, and he managed to do so. Emily Jones, though, still there trying to make a move, and what can she do as she gets on the brakes into turn number 1? Loxton, no dice, is now just behind that. There you got McMillan and Ellis and Barron and Myers and Gilliam and Boyd, and Gilliam and Boyd come together, and they go spread eagle across the track, and they hold it somehow. No drama, still 3 wide into 3.
Oh my God.
As the ERT cars tries to go through, and that's Jordan Ross.
Wow, that's incredible. That could have been way worse than what it ended up as. Oh, a little bit of a tap. John Emerson and Andrew Gilliam and Phil Sell the move once again here on Dane Warren. Can he get it done? I don't know. They're running side by side. Little bit of contact side by side. Warren's going to have to yield there, and he's fallen into the clutches of Jack Burt. Loxton around meanwhile. Drama back in the field.
Yes, there is, and well, Brett Loxton's been turned into 209. It was starting to get a little bit aggressive. Let's get ourselves the motion simulation replay, see what's happened to Brett. And well, you can see making that run to the hairpin, it was always a difficult place. He's trying to get past Postlethwaite, and he goes to the outside to try and make it work. He just goes in a bit too deep, and whoopsie daisy, that's a many amounts of positions that he is going to lose. So now Phil Sell has been released. He will look to attack Madison down and try and get into the race lead of this event early on in this one. Warren has to be careful about being dropped here because Jake Burton is there in 4th position. Hampstead has not fallen away either with Ethan Grigalt. They're both working. Get onto the pack as well. Do not count out Richard Hampstead here. The wily veteran knows exactly what is what, but look at Burton now, starting to close in into the draft, moves to the inside here at Sunset, but can he get the move sorted? Not under brakes, he doesn't, as Warren just gets a little bit squirrely, opens the door here for Burton to go to the outside at turn 1.
Well, we'll see how they go here. Almost getting into the tyres is Warren. Burton left him just enough room, but he has the advantage coming into turn 1. Burton might have to hang back. Oh, no, it's Jake Burton. He's not going to hang back. He's going to try and make it side by side through turn 1, but Warren has him on the exit. Whoa, have a look at the lead.
For the lead, though. Look at this. Jared Philsell has already made tracks, and he is now looming large in the mirrors of Madison Down, and we'll see if he's going to be capable of making this move here on lap 3 of 42. He gets himself a good run through Big Ben. Madison's now got to be coy to this. He's got to defend it, and he's left the door open here. Philsell will move to the inside to make this one work. Madison's got to work that outside line. We've seen Philsell be forceful, and it's position given. Up and under attempt coming, though, from Madison Down. He's going to try and get the switch back, coming out of Fangio and all the way into Cunningham Corner. Philsell's got to be wise to this as he takes the lead for the very first time. Madison Down moves hard to the inside, gets back down the inside of him, and can he slow it up? He can. No contact between them, but Philsell's got overspeed, more traction on the exit. Position is his.
Just able to pick up the throttle a little bit better on the outside line through there, but Down is not willing to let this one go. Tiny bit of contact perhaps into Tower, not quite sure, but the lead is very close. But now that Philsell's out in front, I mean, we know what's happened in the past when Philsell's been in the lead of a race.
They've done it before, they've done it again. Normally this is the cue to say, Jared Filsell, run away and never come back. But for the time being at least, the front 6 are running away. And from Sam Blacklock, they will never come back, it seems. That second pack has just stayed very, very calm. Look at Greg Galt, though. He will want to try and gain some traction and some momentum. His 2 rivals right now in the championship are 1 and 2. He's down in 6th, so he needs a lot of work here to pull this one back. As also Loxton, I believe, has just gone around again, but that front 6 still going through as we've kept an eye on Mario Rushka as the Austrian has run into troubles.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. And that was on the exit of Le Mans coming on to Ullman Straight. Motum replay up at the moment. We're going to see what happened to entering the corner. Just looks like a tiny bit of contact from behind.
Yep, that was one of the Evolution Racing Team cars there, so that was not ideal. So Jordan Ross just making himself a little bit friendly with the neighbours, so to speak. So that's not what he was looking for, but ultimately that's the result that ends up being. So keep an eye on that one then, as the stewards may have to get themselves involved a little bit later on then in this race. But for the time of the field, just dead is the man under pressure right now. Ethan Grigol is swarming to try and find himself a way through, and he is not finding anything as they make their way up to the Cunningham corner. Does Grigol have a lunge? No, he doesn't, because he knows that Hampstead's got to do everything to stay within a second of Jake Burton. It was 4/10 when they came to the line last time. They are starting to drop.
There they are. Grigol might be getting a bit impatient with Hampstead here, coming up to Tower. Sun has briefly come out, track temp going up. Oh.
That was a desperate attempt there on Jack Boyd at Cunningham, but ultimately sliding it through. Brett Loxton is having the most un-Brett Loxton-like race. He certainly isn't the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. He looks very much completely out of it. He looks more Papa Shango than he does Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, losing it through the middle of the turn. Just left him victim on the exit. As we take a look at Dane Warren, he's starting to put some pressure on Madison Down now that Phil Self has run out of gap. What's happening behind them between Hampstead and Greg Galt?
That was all the way to the wall. That was heavy defending there from the TTL sim racing driver. That was, you want to go inside? I'll cover you every step of the way, son. So that was all the way off the track. And now look at this. Madison Down under pressure now as Dane Warren tries to find a way through. Phil Sell has been unleashed. He is now broken away, which is what everyone in this field and everyone watching was hoping that they weren't going to see. They wanted to see close racing, but all of a sudden now the battle for second is a powder keg.
Absolutely is. Madison Down a little bit wide in Sunset Bend after that, but it has not abated him. Little bit of a gap coming out through Big Bend, and now it's Warren versus Burton. Easy to defend at the hairpin. Just got to make sure that you ride those bumps well. Don't lock up your brakes. Burton having nowhere to go on the exit. There's not much space on the exit of that hairpin, but there's plenty of space coming up to Cunningham. We'll see if he tries to put a move up the inside here.
Well, we'll see. On the brakes, no chance of a move, then decides he very much wants to sit and wait for that opportunity to come along. All that battling that has been happening between Hampstead and Greg Galt has cost them. Now Blacklock's back in the picture with El Nabi, Ford, Muggleton, Ethan Warren, Cooper, Webster, all there. Keep an eye on Ethan Warren, though. He's really close to the back of Muggo here in the 81, and this is going to be the question that's going to be made here. Can Josh Muggleton stay ahead here of Ethan Warren and keep the pressure onto Ian Ford? Because it seems that group is splintering as Greg got all over the rear of Richard Hampstead heading into Le Mans.
Yeah, goodness me, these guys have not been able to leave each other alone since the green flag dropped. Ethan Greg Galt, not as good of an exit that time around, but he will have some draft. That's going to help him. Blacklock will be watching that battle. He'll be looking to get in on some of that. Meanwhile, behind them, Ian Ford having a look at El Nabi. Pressure's on there.
Oh, and the little puff of lock-up brakes there. As just behind that, Here comes Ethan Warren down the inside of Josh Muggleton. Not going to get there and won't have the traction now. Has to slip back into the toe to try and pick that back up. Both moving hard to the right-hand side to take the natural racing line. Cooper Webster, the young Cooper Webster, just sitting there waiting, biding his time. Knows there's no pressure behind him from Brenton Hobson, who's in his own little world, trying to defend a multitude of positions. So this race certainly not over. Certainly just igniting some sparks here as wide goes Sean Kelly and through goes Chris Coxhead. So position gain, and that was a big missed apex there from Sean Kelly as he just completely missed his point by about 20 meters.
Yeah, unfortunate as Greg Galt makes the move on Hampstead at the hairpin. Is he going to make it stick? Not quite. Hampstead's got that traction on the exit. He'll cover him off pretty nicely. Or will he? Greg Galt's got a much better run in the second phase of that acceleration zone. Hampstead giving him just enough space and not much more. But Greg Galt, I think he might be through. Yes, he is.
He is. Good move. So Ethan Greg Galt then gains the position that he needs, and that is a good move and one that he is very solid and very happy with in the way that he's been driving. So now he's got a lot of work to do. This has cost him maybe about 2 seconds. 3 seconds as it's 3 wide in the background then as we keep an eye on this, as this is behind one of the TTL cars. This is pretty wires off. Brett Loxton again. He's really struggling here this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and that is another 10 positions he dropped. But look at the mid-pack. It is swarming.
Yeah, focusing on John Emerson at the moment. Right behind him is Jack Boyd. A little bit of a protective move, and you know, there's an ocean of cars behind John Emerson. They're all wanting to get into that one spot. Wow, must be stressful in that position. Scott Sedlowski, nowhere to go. Behind Jack Boyd, more slipstreaming and more TTL menacing.
Yes, and it seems that behind Jordan Ross at the front of this train is a sea of thieves looking to try and take anything that they possibly can in terms of position, as there's the mistake coming in. Sedlowski just running into Jack Boyd slightly. This is going to allow Griffin Gardner a chance to try and find a way down the inside, and he has got that one. Maybe if he can get that inside at turn number 1. Gonna have to be late on the brakes here, Sedlowski, and he is going to try and hold it, but around the outside, better, more superior traction. Does Ratu decide to make it 3 wide? No, he doesn't. He backs out of it, but Sedlowski certainly not giving this one up here into turn number 3. Almost too much there. A little bit of contact and loses the spot.
Well, that should be all she wrote as our split 2 winner, Riley Blythe. He briefly went for the move there as Ian Ford now through on Forzan El Nabi. Those guys have sorted themselves out. Ethan Warren as well is continuing to fight with Josh Muggleton. I've been watching them as you've been chatting, Sperry, and Warren has been attempting to make moves at almost every braking zone so far. Muggleton not cracking though.
No, he's not cracking at all under the amount of pressure that is being applied onto him. So just got to be careful about that, as Cooper Webster almost has a moment just behind that. So they've got to be cautious here about what they are actually doing here, because you can't just go for moves willy-nilly, and it has proved that because Ethan Warren has lost the back of Forzan El Nabi, and that is maybe, I think, a little bit lackluster in the terms of racecraft there from Ethan Warren, as we keep an eye further forward. Second, third and fourth are nose to and tail, as now Madison Down is playing the ultimate defensive role right now. He's got to keep a very hard charging Dane Warren behind, as well as that ignited spark of Jake Burton. And you can say with a little bit of red back in his car, we can finally call him the Scarlet Pimpernel again.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, but it's a good exit from Madison Down versus Dane Warren. Seems the draft is worth something. Almost Warren, very late dive there, but he's not going to be able to make that work. That was more of a scary move than anything else. Something to psych out Down and throw him off the mark for this next braking zone, but he's continuing to cover off the number 57. Dane Warren's chances of getting by Madison Down, I think, are looking pretty minimal, unless he has some heroic move down at the hairpin later on. We've got to remember also, this is a strategy race, Sperry. The drivers have got 2 pit stops coming up.
They certainly do have 2 pit stops coming up, and they've got to be wary to that fact that they want to be pretty much on key when it comes to that strategy call. No moves at the hairpin. They are all even here, second, third, and fourth. You cannot split them. They are that tight. They are that close. They are battling that well as we keep an eye on Kurt Stenberg
he's in
for the
trouble.
moment in the 47. He's in a bit of trouble here. And he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, we're getting a modem simulation replay of what happened to Stenny. Oh, he's right in the thick of it back there. Versus Jack Boyd. And that was pretty simple. No, sorry, that was Michael Taliancic. Fairly simple contact and spin there.
Very much so, and well, you can't get away with it with that livery when you've got the big Taliancic on the front of your vehicle. Everyone's going to know it was you that turned you, because there'll be a big Taliancic print in the rear of Kurt Stenberg's car. A mistake from Madison down. They want trying to go around the outside. Burton dives down to the inside, then at the third part of the section, and can he get it sorted? No! Side by side they'll go. Now who will favour the draft? Madison will want to give it to Jake Burton, and look at that, just cutting across there is Dane Warren trying to snatch the draft back away, but Burton's not giving this one up. He looks to the inside. There's no room at the corner, no room at the end.
Well done by both of those guys not to run into each other there. Burton, with presence of mind on the brake pedal, just staying behind Warren a little bit longer. He doesn't have to make contact to make the pass.
He certainly doesn't, and I wonder here if all these drivers in this second and third, fourth, and now fifth as well, because Ethan Grigolt's caught up, sixth with Hampstead, seventh with Blacklock, eighth with El Nabi, are all hoping that the magical safety car comes out and they find a caution from somewhere that gives them the opportunity on the brakes through 3, 4, and 5. Dane Warren is officially stuck. The one thing that Madison Down is good at, and I think is his best skill, is his defensive driving. I think it's so tough to get around Madison Down. The one thing that you can say that Madison does struggle with from time to time, actually making the overtake. So maybe that could be what Dane Warren's thinking about. Not track position.
Oh,
not
have a look at
speed
this!
skill, get through first.
Oh my goodness, there we go. There is the move by Ethan Warren on Josh Muggleton. Little bit of contact. Trying to get in on it as well is Cooper Webster. And my goodness, Muggo, 2 positions lost in one single corner. That's how you do it at the hairpin.
Highway robbery in Florida then for Josh Muggleton. He will go back to his hotel without much. Look at that. Cooper Webster deep on the brakes, too deep on the brakes. He will not get the position there on Ethan Warren. That was very, very close there, as now Muggleton tries to go down to the inside, heavily defended there by Cooper Webster. They are just, they've forgotten that this race is, I believe, 42 laps long. They're on lap 9.
Yeah, they completely tripped over each other there. That was one of the longest errors I've ever seen 3 drivers make at the same time. But it has shuffled the order a little bit as we look at Taliancic. He's run off the track again, not having a very good evening. Let's take a look at what happened.
Yep, let's take a look then on the Motum Simulations replay. So he's looking to attack that Zuva racing car. He gets down on the brakes. Oh, he lost it on the brakes. He's lucky he's not taken out a second drive there. I believe that's Brad Ratu that he almost took out, and that looks very eerily similar to a Kimi Räikkönen 2005 moment at the Nürburgring, as Dane Warren, I believe, has decided it's time to pit. So that's a very early stop coming in from the Altus Esports driver, and this could throw the hand open for absolutely everyone in this field.
Yeah, well, wasn't quite the first one to stop. Sedlowski was seen touring the lane earlier, but this could really throw things up. Meanwhile, Taliancic has been given a penalty by race control for that contact with Stenberg.
Yep, and no shocks there, so racing continues as they all start looking at how they're going to scrap, how they're going to fight. Now it's the 2 former Aussie driver search boys. It's Grigolt versus Burton, and my goodness, they all know each other better than the back of their hands, the way that they had been working over the start of this year in the event.
Whoa! Wow! Bit of a tap from Ethan Warren. Muggo has moved back to the front of that pack now. Just like
he has. So it was just contact there from Cooper Webster. He redresses it because he knew that the mistake was his. And, well, Josh Muggleton's going to take a couple of freebies after beating Robs. He goes, oh, I found the robbers. Oh, good, I've got all my positions back. Thank you, you're so generous.
Well, we're taking a look at a modem replay of what happened there. Webster into the back of Ethan Warren, and then Muggo just slides on through on the inside and takes it easy as you like. Dane Warren is back out onto the track now. It was a 20.3 second stop for him, 43.8 second lane transit time. He's going for a very long middle run here.
He certainly is, and look at where he is right now. He is stuck behind Michael Taliancic, of all people. So
Hasn't won
he's
this.
going to get by quickly, and, well, he's going to angle to the inside, and, well, this could be plain sailing, as Taliancic should give this one up. Oh, almost gets a tap on the exit there, given up. Indeed it is, and he takes on to lane. Jake Burton will cover off the move made then by Dane Warren, who will have been slow on that outlap because of Taliancic. So this is a good call from Jake Burton here to cover off the move.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of other drivers starting to follow them into. That's a Synergy Sim Racing car coming into the lane. Brenton Hobson, Ethan Warren too as well. Glenn Postlethwaite on the lane. So everyone's starting to blink now. Burton on the lane. Let's see how well he does. And Dane Warren coming through Sunset Bend. We'll see if Burton has been able to cover him off. Keeping an eye on the clock for Burton's pit stop. Surely he'll be coming off the jacks soon. He has. And it is a 21.6 second stop, second longer than Dane Warren. He's just going to go straight on by there.
Yeah, completely through, and for Jake Burton, he knows now he's got work to do, as his longer stop now needs to pull him into play. Taliancic will play no factor. Dane Warren has gone off with the fairies. Then as this one on lap 11 is firmly a pit stop window at the moment. Worth talking about this as well. There's 3 Trans-Tasman cars all in a line, spearheaded by Emily Jones. It's Jones, Go Lee and Sean Kelly, who all find themselves 12th, 13th and 14th at the moment. Emily Jones is up 13 positions off of the start of this race. She's having a stormer coming back to the series.
Certainly. Emily Jones, she's always been one of those people that just makes their way through the field in a race, and you look at the timesheets at the end and you think, geez, how did all of that happen? Jones can keep the car out of trouble when she needs to. I think these 3 are perfectly happy flying in formation at the moment.
I think they certainly are, and I think a lot of drivers right now are thinking about, well, okay, this is going to be a tale of 2 strategies. Either you go long and have a short final stint, or you go and get the short stint out of the way early and hope that your long stints go along. No takers onto lane except for Ian Ford, and that's surprising here. I thought Ian Ford would be someone who would go for the traditional Ford long stop, wait probably long, almost too long, and come in very, very late and make that happen. Maybe has the potential in the second stop to make that work, but Ian Ford's in.
Yeah, certainly. We'll have to wait and see as we take a look at McMullen and Ross battling across the line for 13th and 14th. Now McMullen trying to make the move, but Ross covering him off. It's a tempting overtaking spot, turn 1, but in these cars, you don't stand much of a chance of making it work.
On the brakes into turn 3, Sun comes out. No chance of a move then here for Marlon McMullen as he now tries to angle his way through 5 and now get things going. It's a short fill then for Ian Ford, so he'll go for a very long final stint because Ian Ford has come out ahead of Dane Warren. So that is very surprising, but Ian Ford's short fill means he's going to have the longest of all stops then come the final stint.
Well, he'll have to make sure that this middle stint is picture perfect as Chris Coxhead recovers from that incident at the hairpin. Ford, you can see he's actually gapped Warren a bit already and is looking to make a move on Mari Hrushka on those fresh tyres. Easy as you like, Ian Ford goes through. It will be interesting to see how that middle stint goes. I think it's all going to define how that final stint ends up for him.
Yeah, and that final point, or that final position that he'll be looking for is going to be so vital. Hrushka gets out of the way, and the Austrian drops a position to Dane Warren, and no surprises there. Burton in the background as well on this one. But there are still those in that train who will want to be thinking about making those stops, and no more so than Madison Down, as there is something wrong potentially with the 208 of Chris Coxhead at the moment. So we keep an eye on this. Lost probably about 10 spots on that lap. So we'll get a motion simulation replay, see exactly what's happening. It seems that he's got no power and he's steering all over the place at the moment. I'm wondering here if he's having one of these technical issues that so very often seem to happen, and he just needs a flat reset of his machine. But Chris Coxhead struggling, I think, with the steering and maybe even the power as well, and on cue, he's down on the lane.
Quite understandably as well. Hopefully we find out what the problem was, but Chris Coxhead, he's one of the drivers that features quite a bit in Enduro season. You always look out for him teamed up with Liam Wilde. His regular season leaves something to be desired, however. Bad luck for him.
Bad luck indeed, so we need to be a sleuth to work out what's going out, as we believe that Josh Muggleton, I believe, has come down in potentially... Nope, sorry. I can't hear at the moment, my director, so that just makes things nice and good. So Cooper Webster at the moment battling Josh Muggleton. Let's focus on that for a bit then, as Cooper's been looking every which way, trying to find a move and trying to get a moment happening, but ultimately nothing has been amazing at the moment. Right in front of the pit stop window, trying to get something to work out, but at Tower, not quite there.
Nah, and Muggleton, he struggled a little bit on exit, didn't pick up the throttle as early as Webster did. This is probably going to help Webster, but making a move is difficult at this section. You got these long, flowing bends to go. It's only going to be Sunset Bend. There's no use trying to make the move here.
Yeah. No use trying to get that, and it's a gear change, so problems with the gearbox then coming along for Chris Coxhead, and well, even Ayrton Senna would have struggled with that. Here comes Cooper Webster though, gonna come down the inside, and can he get the move sorted? Yes he can, so he's gonna try and pick the run off the exit here as Muggleton, and he's not gonna quite get there. Into pit road though comes Ethan Grigg-Gault, and this is a big pit stop here because it wonders now if he's going to drop how far behind Jake Burton and co, and this could be a very big pit stop in the grand scheme.
Certainly could. Grigg-Gault still sitting in the lane at the moment, 10 seconds gone on his stop, so we got to remember the likes of Ian Ford and Brett Loxton. They've had 6 second longer pit stops than most of the other drivers. This looks like a longer fill for Ethan Grigg-Gault. Actually, quite a long fill. 25, 26, 27 seconds. It's a 26.8 second stop. He's going very long.
He is going very long, and you can see how long he's going because he is a mile away from Jake Burton. He's probably about 10 seconds back and more into the clutches of Ethan Warren now, which poses the question here. Maybe the likes of Forzan El Nabi and Sam Blacklock and co maybe could snipe a position away here if they are not too careful. So this one could very easily turn in a very different direction for a lot of drivers who's coming out of pit road. On board with Jack Boyd and Griffin Gardner's little scrap that they are having at the moment. So this one going on for about deep, almost contact there as they head into Cunningham. And another little bump here. Griffin's getting impatient, uncharacteristically impatient.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be able to send one up the inside at Tower. Not enough of a run, but Jack Boyd has been receiving that Morse code loud and clear on the bumper. And we look at Michael Barron from his viewpoint. He's got a very good view of proceedings here. Looks to me like things are calming down just a little, but those twisty parts of the circuit, that's where Griffin Gardner is really going at it. Jared Filsell, a race leader in the pits. Madison Downs staying out.
Yes, so Filsell then feels it's time to dive in as Sam Blacklock will follow down onto the lane. So that's very, very crucial in terms of the long and short, as Emily Jones also, she decides to come in, as does Sean Kelly, as we just see on board a little bit of a nice battle going on as the 21 tries to still scrap it out with that 38 machine. So this one going on across the start-finish line, Boyd and Gardner going at it, and well, for the time being anyway, on the brakes into one, it is Gardner's finally.
Yeah, finally indeed. We'll have to see how he goes over the next part of this one, because Jack Boyd, he looks like he's struggling a little bit. He's not quite as smooth with the car as Gardner is. View of the pit lane briefly, and Gardner, I think that position might be safe for now. Meanwhile,
Out of the way has come
0-1-3.
Out and away has come Jared Filsell. He retains the race lead then as Tom Freer now becomes the bottleneck for Ian Ford and Dane Warren, and soon to be Jake Burton as well. Ford has not broken away, and in fact Dane Warren has just been systematically chopping off a 10th every lap that's gone by, and now he's going to be firmly on the rear, or is he? Bang! Contact there between Freer and Warren, and this is the issue when you've got traffic which is a little bit slower and is fighting you pole position. They are allowed to get a little bit elbows out, and you don't quite know how they're going to react. Burton down the inside of Christian Smart and takes another position.
Dane Warren, it wasn't that big of a hit in the middle of the hairpin. Shouldn't affect him too much, but really, as Boyd is now back through, these guys don't seem to be able to leave each other alone. The problem that Warren is having is it's all a distraction. He wants that clean track in front of him so that he can set those consistent lap times. Just not able to do it right now. He's coming up on Ford too.
He is coming up on Ford as we keep an eye on Brenton Hobson as well, as I'm just keeping an eye on proceedings that are going on at the moment. So Hobbo 88 at the moment, a little ways down the order as Griffin Gardner gets back down the inside. Brenton Hobson trying to stay with Ethan Warren. Now, he's done well over his pit stop to get himself back to Ethan Warren. Has dead over the course of this one, but at the moment, Madison Down decides to stay out, but Forzan El Nabi has decided it is time for the pit road, as has Cooper Webster, both of them looking to make their stops. Where will El Nabi come out in all of this?
Very good question. Gardner and Boyd once again still together, but Forzan El Nabi still stopped as Dane Warren, I believe, just went by. He is now away. For El Nabi, that was a 30-second stop.
Well, that's a very long stop, and he is looking at that as a full tank of fuel. I think you have to say he's behind Brenton Hobson now and Corey Preston, so maybe, just maybe, the 097 is going for the uber long stops, which can very much work around here, especially when you're only putting in maybe 5 litres to finish off the race or something along those lines if you're really pushing it well. So this is going to be a tough one to make, and a lot of drivers now thinking about where they want to be placed. Drivers who have yet to come down onto the lane: Madison Down, Richard Hampstead, Josh Muggleton, Brady Myers, I do believe, has yet to come down onto the lane, as has the Gardner and Boyd battle, and then you get to race leader Jared, or net race leader Jared Filsell at the front of the field. So that's the way that things stack up then after 16 laps worth of racing action. So for the time being at least, question now lies on Madison Down. Will he go for the short stop or the long stop? It seems that he's going for the long first stint here, Reese. And that long first stint is to try and run that tank as dry as possible and see where he goes on the second stop.
Yeah, second stop is what it's all about. The way these 250k races can be split up is you can split it equally, but most drivers tend to go for 2 long stints, 1 shorter one. And you can do that at the beginning like Dane Warren has. You can do it at the end like we've seen Ian Ford do. Sometimes they'll do it right in the middle of the race. Who knows? Madison Down may just do that. Get those 2 stops out of the way in quick succession. Try and hold on for victory. Bit of a penalty for Emily Jones from race control.
That's a shame. She was having an amazing run, and just like that, the jinx is confirmed. So Emily Jones will have to dive down onto the lane one more time after issues that she has had in this one. A little bit further down in the pack, the train is behind Riley Blythe, Ian Bird, Talyancic, McMillan, Cracknell, Sanford, Ratu, Coxhead. So keep an eye on Chris Coxhead. It seems that the gears are back in his gearbox, and he is finding them because he's right behind Brad Ratu trying to make that move, and for the time being at least, not quite in position to make it as they head to 1.
We're taking a look at we did take a look at a replay briefly. We are back live. Chris Coxhead on Brad Ratu is looking quite feisty coming into turn 1. Now, these two fighting outside the top 30, and that's McMullen in front of them, I believe. No. Is that correct? Sanford. David Sanford is the car in front of him. Same colour. It's an easy mistake to make, Sperry. Please confirm.
It's a difficult world, but David Sanford's now got to play the defensive role here as Ratu looks to the inside in the Exeter Gaming car. Mistake from Sanford, and there's one. Will Coxhead follow that one up? Nope, door shut. Nope, you're not getting through that one. That door was ironclad. There's no way you're getting through that. And that just shows you, even for 35th position, they will fight with everything they've got.
Absolutely. That's one of the defining characteristics of this series. Dane Warren close to Ian Ford now. The question is, like, these guys aren't actually racing each other at the moment. They're on completely different strategies. So it's got to be very frustrating for Warren. He is still taking a look, yes, but I don't know if he'll be able to get by. Ian Ford is absolutely guarding that position tooth and nail at the moment.
He is, but look at this, a battle between these two down the inside. Dane Warren comfortably picks up the move, but look at this will be the run off the exit that Ian Ford will be looking for, because he will dive back down to the inside, but he's not early enough on the brakes there. Yields and gives the position away. Warren runs slightly wide there through 3. That compromises both of them, but Dane Warren has the position, and all of a sudden, Dane can finally go on attack mode. He has dealt with the roadblock, or the moving chicane in front of him.
Next car up on track for Dane Warren is Griffin Gardiner, who currently runs in position 5. And Ian Ford now, I don't think he'd want to pressure Dane anymore. Ian's got most of the race left. He wants to look after his tyres. If Warren wants to charge, just let him go.
Here's the telling factor. Jared Filsell, that last time by, did a 2:02.9. Madison down a 2:04.2. That's 1.3 seconds on that last lap through. So Madison down all of a sudden finds himself in a bit of Schrodinger's pit stop here. He knows that the longer he stays out, the better his fuel's going to be, but the longer he stays out, the more those tyres are going to shred up underneath him. He stays out for another lap, his 19th lap around this track, and you feel he cannot go much further than this, as most drivers have come down in and made a stop. Richard Hampstead has decided that he wants to come down in and get himself some fresh new boots, as Josh Mugton came in that last lap by. He's right in the middle of a Trans-Tasman train at the moment, as Brady Myers may decide that it may be his time to dive down onto pit road, and this is firmly the TTL strategy. They come in at the end of 18.
For sure, and it may work out in their favour. We'll have to wait and see. Slight oversteer on the exit for both Ian Ford and Dane Warren. Ford's not letting Warren go. I reckon the lighter fuel load on Ian Ford's car, it's keeping him in there, but he'll want to make sure that he looks after his tyres as well.
Long stop then from Richard Hampstead, and he's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and through goes more drivers. Brenton Hobson, this is an incredibly long stop. That looks like he's maybe sped on pit road, 36 seconds, so he'll get out and away, and he will be behind Jordan Ross. So the horror season continues for Hampstead, as now here comes Corey Preston, almost a chance to get through, has to back out of it. Brett Loxton just behind.
Yeah, good battle here at the moment. We'll have to wait and see how quickly Hampstead gets up to speed here, but Brett Loxton and Corey Preston right in the thick of this battle. And, you know, we have not properly focused on Corey Preston in quite some time. He's one of the drivers that, you know, we focus on quite a bit over time. He's having to stay wide here. Loxton almost getting the move done, but once again, as with a few corners here, the outside line is better for traction. Loxton might be able to make it up the inside here as well. Will Preston cover him? He leaves him a car length. There we go, that's it.
But that's why, because Corey Preston's run wide, and they will stay too wide. Bang! Contact between them as Preston now tries to force an angle, and he will not get that angle as Brett Loxton holds the inside into tower. Oh, he loses the rear end, the rear axle locks, and he loses the position, and now Cooper Webster will say, oh, cookies, I'll have that one. And look at this, he'll look for the inside and try and take the position. Oh, he manages to make an angle through Bishop as they get themselves into the right of Le Mans, and that is position around the outside, mate. That's stunning.
Nice job there from Cooper Webster and Corey Preston with quite a few issues in that section. I think all the way through Tower, there was not one moment where he had the wheel pointed in the right direction. Madison Down, meanwhile, is in the pits and just going over
Non-stop.
30 seconds now. 30.4 seconds. That's about the same as what we saw from the likes of El Nabi.
Yes, he'll get himself out and away. He went 20 laps on a tank, so if he can do that again, he's
Warren out
got a
ahead.
2-lap splash and dash. And if he can save 2 laps of fuel, which is a massive task in these vehicles, he's behind Ethan Warren. Is he maybe in the potential to run a very brave one-stop strategy to try and win this race?
He's not allowed to. You got to make 2 mandatory pit stops in these
boo!
races.
Boo! No, I'm sorry, I don't like that. I want to see a one-stop try and win this race, so that's a shame. He'll have a 1-lap splash and dash to the end. But Madison Down, looking straight down the inside of Ethan Warren with fresh boots on his vehicle, and just like that, position made.
Yeah, easy as you like for Madison Down on those fresh tyres once again. Ethan Warren still running in within the top 10. I mean, we haven't talked about him all that much through this race, but it's been a very good performance from him.
It has been a very, very strong performance, and I have to say, he's been doing well as we are just looking at a few moves here and there. This is Lee Ellis. Go Lee on Corey Preston. Down on the brakes into Cunningham, and thank you. That is mine.
Yeah, and Preston yielding very cleanly as well there. So I think those guys are both recognizing that it's not worth pushing each other too hard at this point. We're still not even halfway through this race. Just about, though.
We will be at the end of next lap as Jared Filsell holds a commanding lead of about 6 seconds over Dane Warren at the moment, who is dragging along Ian Ford and Jake Burton with him. Ethan Grigault now rounding out the top 5 at the moment here in this one. It seems for all the money that Filsell certainly has the race pace compared to everybody else, and it seems that it will have to take some form of disaster to change the way that this one works, as Brett Loxton continues to try and scrap with Cooper Webster, but ultimately gets a whole boatload of nothing to work with at the moment. As up and down this field, there are miniature battle packs which are starting to form as we keep an eye on Forzan El Nabi and also Brenton Hobson as well, as they will look to try and make their runs work on the brakes. The left-hander of turn 3 comes along, and El Nabi, I believe, has just made a way through.
Yeah, it has. Motum replay up on screen. These guys are still fighting very closely on track at the moment, but we're going to take a look at how the move was made here at turn 1. You can see that El Nabi had a really good run and just looked like a pretty late decision. Just fire it straight towards the inside, and away he goes. Hobbo had the better exit, tried to make the move at the following turn, but just did not have the run he needed.
No, certainly didn't, and that much was very, very telling. So, for the time being at least, Hobbo88 is going to drop back a little bit. He gained a lot, though, in the pit stop window. He's up 6 positions today from his starting position. He is the biggest gainer inside of the top 10 bar 1. That one being Ian Ford, who went for the short fill strategy, gain himself track position. Now, here's another reason why he is not falling away from Dane Warren. Tyres, because Dane Warren pitted incredibly early, and those tyres around about now are going to start showing their age.
Yeah, while Ian Ford's are still very much in their prime, which is, but he's just sitting back there at the moment. As the sun continues to come out and disappear through the course of this race, we might see those tyres really fluctuate for Warren. Actually, there he goes, into the pits for the second time. So he is running super long for the final stint.
It will be a 21 lap, or if not 20 lap final stint. He will do the Madison stop, try and end his race. And this is a brave strategy because he will be on fresh tyres to start, and he will start gaining that time back. But he is going to be a sitting duck in the final stage of this one, as again, he almost clatters that pit wall on the inside, trying to get into his box. But look at El Nabi, oh my word, he's going to go straight through on Ethan Warren, who's going to cut back at him then after 1, right kink of 2, into 3, as Ethan Warren got this one sorted. Well, El Nabi's going to try and hold it through 4, but that turn 5 is always favouring Ethan Warren, and position maintained.
Good racing. very good racing. That's the drivers gave each other a lot of room there, which was awesome to see. Dane Warren, meanwhile, has just come out of the pits behind Bradley Ratu as El Nabi tries once again to go by at the hairpin. He's on a charge as El Nabi. He feels really good in that car at the moment. He's just been able to get it done.
That was heavy-handed, the way that he wanted to make that move happen. A little bit of contact there between them, but look at this. Ethan Warren's not giving up. This is a defensive line here by Forzan El Nabi. He's not confident of keeping this position, and again hangs him out to dry. Allows Hobbo a chance to go through, but again, the gentleman that Brenton Hobson is says, no, keep racing. I'm liking this. This is a good show. I'll get my popcorn and watch the rest of this race from my lovely, lovely seat of 10th position at the moment. So that one all ending up and the show's finished, so, well, I'll have to put popcorn away now and start battling.
Yeah, seems that way at the moment. Hobson just... Oh, actually, it looked like he almost backed off a little bit through there. Probably allow himself a bit of extra breathing room. It's not a bad idea at this stage in the race. If Warren is as feisty as he is, you might want to stay back. Speaking of Warren, we've got the other Warren, Dane, on screen at the moment. He's currently in 23rd position. That was a 22.9 second stop for him. So his first target is Ian Bird.
It is the Mark 1 driver trying to and get a little bit of a battle. So here comes Dane Warren straight to the inside, and there will be no harm or no foul with that. He'll then have to deal with the searching for gears, Chris Coxhead, and the Mega Black Racing driver, Thomas McMillan. On the brakes they go, and of course Dane Warren and Thomas McMillan, former teammates. Look at Coxhead try and make a move. He's searching for that inside. He is sleuthing for that one, and ultimately can't quite get there. Maybe we'll have a chance into turn number 1, and yes, he will play the Schumacher dummy to the inside, and he will look for that inside line to work for him. Vehicle coming out of pit road is Jake Burton, I do believe, and he has jumped Dane Warren in the stop.
He certainly has. It's a few car lengths, more than a few car lengths, as McMillan continues to fight with Coxhead. Tiny bit of contact. Oh, have a look here. Dane Warren, this is not what he wanted at all to come out right in the midst of this battle. He needs to
look at this, around the outside of Big Bend. This is going to be a great move. That is opportunistic. That is a move that is rated R. That is Dane Warren pulling out an edge impersonation. That's a great move as he gets himself into the hairpin. What a move from Dane Warren to pick up 2 positions in about 3 corners worth of racing. Great work in the overall to make that one pay off for him. So this one now starts getting a little bit more interesting as this one continues. So Phil Sell leads, Ford second, Grid Gold third. It's an ERT lock at the front of the field, but no guarantees because we are firmly in the second half of this race where strategy means absolutely everything right now.
Yeah, we've got about half race distance to go, and we already have 2 drivers who have decided to do half race distance on a single tank, those guys being Madison Down and Dane Warren. So they will be the ones we'll be watching most intently as everyone else goes about their more conventional strategies.
Riley Blythe under pressure, Jake Burton looking to siphon off a position with his fresh rubber on his vehicle, and defended by Riley Blythe. So Riley is playing the team game here. If you want to get by me, you will fight me for it. So around the outside, he will try and go up and under, though, is the attempt. Wiggle on the exit, 2 wiggles on the exit there for Riley Blythe, struggling with tyres. And Jake Burton says, well, son, that's why you don't fight when you've got old tyres on.
Well, Blythe, I don't blame him either way. He is playing the team game, as you did say. But Burton, now it's up to him to try and chase down the likes of Grid Gold and Ford as we look at Solovsky and Kelly. These guys have been fighting for a bit as well, 15th and 16th.
This is the battle just in front of Jake Burton, and this is the one that he will be closing up on very soon. So Solovsky, who's 9th in the championship, mind you, he's had some very consistent finishes, effectively Ross Rizzoing this season in the sense that he is getting just the top 15s and is managing just to pick up those points in the championship that keep him relevant. This is what the worry is. Sean Kelly right now, who has certainly shown he's got a better turn of pace, I think, than Solovsky in one lap sense. just seemingly has never found this season the race pace to go out there and follow on from a good qualifying. So Kelly trying to work out where's the weakness in Scott Kozlowski. At the moment, there is none.
Yeah, Kozlowski, you can see he's being a lot more aggressive with his wheel than Kelly is. Sean's one of those guys who's been around forever. He drives as smooth as anyone who's been racing these Australian touring cars for a very long time. Kozlowski, on the other hand, he does have the pace. What about Hamstead?
Looking down the inside of Brenton Hobson, he goes for it at Sunset Bend and he picks it up. Is there an up and under attempt coming from Hobo 88? Answer, no. So into pits comes Brenton Hobson. He decides, you know what, that's enough. I've seen Hamstead go by me. I can't handle the shame. I'm going to have to come down in and get a new fresh set of rubber.
As Kelly goes through at Sunset Bend there on Kozlowski. Must have been a draft execution maneuver. TTR driver in front, and Blythe not letting Dane Warren go.
Well, no shocks there, but that is Dane Warren through, and we'll be looking to pull off a few more positions. So we'll see where Hobo 88 comes out in all of this. He will be a little bit further back. He's going to take a long stop then and get himself out and away and off go. So we'll keep an eye on that as Stenberg has his own little scrap. But off of pit road comes Hobson. He's behind the battle between Tom Freer and Jack Boyd. Freer running very wide through turn number 1. So he's ahead of Ethan Warren by a comfortable margin.
And it was a slightly shorter fill there from Hobson as well. 18.7 second stop. So he's definitely looking to make another one before the end of this one, I think.
Keep an eye out on the battle for 4th position as well, because Sam Blacklock is dropping a second a lap at the moment to Madison Down, who is on those fresher tyres.
Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Mr. Sperry, but Sam Blacklock we're focusing on at the moment, running in 4th position. Madison Down creeping up on him there. Jay Kennedy, welcome to the commentary box. This race is, there's still quite a bit to go. We've still got a lot to play for here.
100%, and there's some battles that you can just see starting to close up and get very, very interesting and spicy. You see Cooper Webster and Josh Muggleton are about to resume their battle again. Lee Ellis and Marlon McMullen, who've battled throughout the years, they're getting very, very close. And Burton and Dane Warren, Burton's sort of coming back at him. It sort of ebbs and flows a little bit, but here comes Muggleton. Have a look at this on Cooper Webster.
Yeah, Cooper Webster. This is for position 10. So close to the tyre barrier coming across the line. Both of these guys running extremely well. 2:04.1 for Cooper last lap, 2:04.0 for Josh Muggleton. So it's obvious who the faster of the two is at the moment, but Cooper Webster just able to stay ahead.
Yeah, very much stays ahead then at the moment, but this one then just continuing to go on as we keep an eye on that Trans-Tasman racing car that continues on. I've just knocked my microphone wire off, so I'm the cleverest man in all of Florida at the moment, it seems, and my battle will be legendary. Sam Blacklock, though, still under pressure and still finding out that maybe, just maybe, Madison Down is just playing that waiting game. Another 9/10 of a second that last time by. And, of course, Blacklock, former teammates with Madison Down, will know just how quick he is, knows that he's maybe going to have to play that team game for Dane Warren, because, as we all know, Dane Warren has not had the best second stop in the world and has a lot of work to do to pull himself further forward.
That's exactly right. He's a fair way back, but we've got to remember Madison still has yet to do his second pit stop. In fact, everyone up to Jake Burton in 15th still has yet to do their second stop. And I will correct myself from before. Brenton Hobson has already done his second stop, so he's got no more to come. Hopefully for him.
Completely done. Marlon McMullen trying to find a way past Lee Ellis. Go Lee in 11th position right now. And for the moment, Marlon McMullen will be trying to prize open a position to make that move. Lee Ellis started the season in split 2. He didn't have the best of runs. He completely torpedoed Ross Rizzo, and we all said no Lee after that. but for Lee Ellis right now, this is a great return to form as Blacklock and Madison Down start going at it down the inside. There is no fight because there goes Madison Down straight through.
Yeah, Blacklock just trying to keep it on the track there. He knows that it's not worth fighting at this stage. All Blacklock has to do is continue running his strategy. McMullen in the pits for the second time now.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he will be looking to try and make that stop and get ahead of Lee Ellis through strategy calls as we are on lap 27 of 42. 16 laps remaining here at Sebring International Raceway, the international layout that we have here going on. So this is going to be a tough little scrap towards the end then for a lot of drivers. ERT is staying out long, maybe Trans-Tasman staying out a little bit longer than that, but Jake Burton is the man on the move. He's already dispatched of Soslovsky and Sean Kelly, and now it's Dane Warren's turn to get past Scott Soslovsky in the Trick Sim Sport car.
Indeed, down at the hairpin, Soslovsky picking up the traction, slight bit better, but Warren, he's a Sebring specialist almost. He knows how to drive this place. He knows what to do in almost every situation. And right now, the decision is to stay behind for a couple more corners, but Soslovsky sliding around a little bit too much, I think, as we take a look at some side-by-side running briefly. What's going to happen at Tower Turn? My goodness. They stay line astern, but at the hairpin, Mary Krushka and Marlon McMullen, Marlon McMullen and Kurt Stenberg, rather, getting into a big fight.
They were, but look at this. Soslovsky's under pressure here and is proving his stripes to Dane Warren here around the outside, maybe trying to play Forza El Nabi into some form of game. That could be one of the reasons why he's fighting maybe a little bit harder than usual, but look at this. Pick the run out of the Le Mans complex and now heading towards Sunset Bend, the corner of 1004 lines and straight down the inside. That is going to be comfortable there for a certain Mr. Warren as he goes through, as Hampstead and El Nabi, I believe, have just traded position.
Looks like it, and it happened at the start of the lap. Hampstead through into turn 3. So, El Nabi, well, let's have a look at what he's done. He still has yet to make his second pit stop, as does Hampstead. So, both of those guys still have yet to decide where they're going to end up.
They certainly have, failed to decide that just yet, but Hobson at the moment, let's focus on him just for the moment, because Hobbo 88 is in his own little scrap at the moment. He is struggling around with Tom Freer, but Freer's going to have to give that one up. Freer definitely a one-lap specialist, but maybe his race pace still leaves a lot to be desired. You can see certainly taking a wider line, struggling to bring that vehicle in, but a newer team in Hyperdrive still needs to have time, I think, to really work out the kinks of what makes their race set good, what makes their Q set good, and how they can really work with the likes of John Emerson to really open up and make those sets a possibility.
That's something that a lot of newer sim racing teams deal with. You have a bunch of guys from previously different teams coming together under the one banner, working together for the first time. It does take a while to iron out those kinks, but if you've got a good bunch of guys, then you'll be sitting pretty. Dane Warren versus Jake Burton. Looks like that was a fair cover. And Sean Kelly is the TTR car that Dane Warren just made his way past.
Yes, and that is now moving Dane Warren in 13th place, but in terms of battling with Jake Burton, he's already 3-4 seconds down the road. Burton will be looking at Lee Ellis going on as we take an eye at Forza El Nabi down on pit road, as well as Ian Ford, as well as Jared Filsell. So Ethan Grigalt takes the race lead here, but ultimately Filsell will come out of pit road and will be with Josh Muggleton into turn number 1. This is going to be a little bit tight on exit. Muggleton gives him the room. How much? Not much at all. He has to take grass, and that was not the plan of Filsell. Muggleton plays hold-up boy now for Madison.
Well, that makes sense, I reckon. If we were in Muggo's position, we'd probably do the same. If he's ahead, keep the position. But we'll have to take a look at what Filsell can do through the hairpin. You can see Muggo, he's already leaving the door open.
Yeah, there's no way that Josh Muggleton is going to hold this Phenom out any longer, down to the inside, and that is a perfect move from Jared Filsell. You will not get any of them easier, and that was effectively a case there, you'd have to say there, Reese, of yellow helmet syndrome coming into play.
Please explain?
Well, Ayrton Senna had a yellow helmet, and back markers had to jump furiously out of the way to avoid a certain Senna from absolutely gobbling them up, and I think that was a case of yellow helmet syndrome.
I see. We take a look at Josh Muggleton as he chases after Filsell. It's a losing battle if he wants to try and chase after him, look after his own race from this point on. Filsell, oh, don't know, man. It's he's led so many races by such a huge margin over the years, but the competition this year much greater. And Ethan Griggault, his main competition, onto the pit road.
Looking to make that stop work for him. So Griggault will hand over possession of the race lead to Madison Down, who he himself will be very happy at the way that he's driving at the moment. He will pit very late with 13 laps to go, and he will only have to pit and take a few litres before getting out and away again. And in fact, Madison Down could come down any time from now. If he wants to make that stop work, he needs to leave himself probably about 5 laps, Reese, coming to make that stop, even if he only needs to take 2 laps of fuel. Out and away comes Griggault. He will be behind Jake Burton out on track as he will fight Dane Warren off of the exit, but Dane Warren breezes on by.
He surely does, and Ethan coming out right behind him. Good point you make, though, about Madison before the race. He does want to make sure that he has time to fight if he needs to. If he leaves that final pit stop too late and he ends up losing out, well, then it's pointless. He had no time to try and recover.
You have to look right now at who Madison's fighting here and where he would come out in comparison. He knows Jared Filsell's 20 seconds down the road. He knows he maybe isn't going to catch that. He's looking at Jake Burton at 27 seconds, and if he's only got to put in a handful of fuel and probably not take tyres at that sort of stage as well, this is going to be Madison Down thinking, well, okay, do I want 2 laps to battle, or do I want 10 laps to battle? That's the difference maker, and if it's 10 laps to battle, that gives you a lot more time to work out what you need to do, but it depends on what Madison wants. If he's happy running in clean air, he'll run in clean air.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's all down to the driver to do that. And Madison, being as experienced as he is, he's one of those drivers who does prefer to work out the strategy. I mean, he loves a good race as much as any of us do, but it's all about pitting now, apparently.
But look at Ethan Griggault. Just for the moment, the 117 has caught Dane Warren. Remember, Dane's tyres are a lot older than Ethan Griggault's new ones. And the egg down to the inside will look for a big position in terms of this battle. He gets himself then right in on that inside. And Dane Warren is powerless to stop the egg as he makes the way through. And, well, that one you can say is needing a few more toy soldiers to make that one work.
They're going to get by Down as well. He's just come off the jacks. By they go. And Down just at pit exit now. So he's got a bit of work to do in these last 11 or so laps.
Certainly does, as Richard Hampstead comes off the jacks and away he goes. He's in no man's land. El Nabi has breezed on by, and now all of a sudden here comes Hobbo 88, and this is going to be close, and actually Brenton Hobson's going to steal the position. So great work from Hobson. He is ahead of Hampstead, and that will be a great battle to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to that one. Have a look at Burton as well on Lee Ellis. Of course, these guys, former teammates at Trans-Tasman Racing. Burton, a little bit of a wiggle, but he manages to get through.
Well, go Lee. He's going to try and go and get a position back. Is he? No, not close enough. So Lee Ellis then has to drop the position, and Griggault will be there soon, as well as Dane Warren. So I think Ethan Griggault is positioning himself very nicely for second position overall. Look at where Ian Ford is as well in all of this. He's just behind Madison Down too. So He's probably going to be the one dropping the time. Watch out for Hampstead, though. Hampstead all over Brenton Hobson, and now this is where Hobbo88 has to fight harder than he probably has done all season so far.
He'll be watching his mirrors down every single straight. This is the battle for the last spot in the top 10. Oh, Hampstead thought about going at Tower.
Oh, he's going
still
for it.
thinking about going for it at Tower. He's gone for it at Tower, and he
given.
succeeded.
I'm pretty sure that was given from Hobson. Will he come back at him, though? That's the question. If he comes back at him, then we know that's a given position. Hobson was incredibly wide through Tower, uncharacteristically wide. Was seeing that, and probably knowing him, he was going, well, I've got to think about a few things. The instant point counter. I've got to think about how hard I'm going to be battling everyone in this as Sam Blacklock comes down onto pit road. He thought, no, it's not worth it at this stage. I'm just going to let you go because I don't want to lose my race in a position like this. As we look at Lee Ellis under pressure now from Ethan Griggolt down to the inside, and position pretty much taken, not guaranteed, but trying to be taken and stolen.
Yeah, and Lee currently is in a position where he can't afford to fight these guys too hard. Yes, he is further up in the field, but he still has yet to make his second pit stop. He's actually the last driver in the top 10 yet to make that stop.
And, well, talk about things that seemingly don't change the longer things go. Emily Jones and Thomas McMillan are having a battle.
Of course. Of course. All we need is Corey Preston in the same bit of track, and we'll have a really good show, won't we?
We certainly will. And trying to look at where Corey Preston is out on track. He's a little bit further behind that. He's in 33rd position and in his own little worries here. He's with John Emerson right now, who, safe to say, has had a quiet race by Emerson standards. Was probably looking at maybe top 15, but ultimately finds himself outside of the top 30.
Yeah, and that's a real shame for him. John Emerson, bit of off-track action there, coming through the first couple of turns. Brett Loxton and Christian Smart fighting for 23rd and 24th, and Loxton, he's been one of the most troubled competitors here today. You know, we both watched him, Sperry. We know what Loxton is capable of, and today we just haven't seen that side of him.
Well, he's down 5%.
Oh,
slow down as a penalty comes in for Dane Warren, and that's not going to be helpful at all, because you've got to remember Madison Down is only 2 points something behind and will continue now to attack. So Dane Warren is dropping back further and further and further, as now the battle for second looks to hot up, as Ethan Griggolt on strategy has pulled himself back into this one. He's got Jake Burton as the last bastion.
Well, that's going to be a bastion that won't come to him very easily. We know Burton is one of the most stubborn defensive drivers in the field, making headlines for that as Lee Ellis goes into the pits, and we're pretty close to having the field cleansed. Marie Krushka and Christian Smart still yet to travel through the pit lane a second time.
Well, we've got Talianchi. Well, you can add to that list, but for the moment anyway, here's Ethan Griggolt, superior tyres as well, and this could be a formality. Looking down to the inside, Burton does not cover the move. He lets it go, and no surprises there. He knew he was beaten. He does not have the tyre life to fight this one to the end. With 10 laps to go, you expect to hold off fresh tyred Ethan Griggolt for 10 laps. It's futile, and as such, Jake Burton decides, you know what, I'm going to let this one go. I have no real other reason to fight. Battle on for 8th, though. Sam Blacklock's found a way through on Forzan El Nabi.
Yeah, we've got a replay of that very thing at the moment, coming out of turn 6. Let's have a look at what happened through Big Bend as they went under the gantry. El Nabi letting him go, it seems, to start out with. And that seems to be the way it's gone.
Yep, that is a very nice gift, and one which will very comfortably be given. So that one there, nice move and very comfortable. Ethan Warren, though, under pressure as well. This is 14th right now, and there is Jordan Ross, who has been up and down and left and right and centre, and finds himself 15th, trying to get himself another position here on an Altus Esports car.
For sure. Position 14 and 15 fighting in these dying stages of the race, and Ethan Warren, a little bit of instability in the rear end. Not too happy with the balance of that thing. Jordan Ross, on the other hand, just continuing to put on this pressure. I mean, it might seem like a minor possession from the outside looking in, but to these guys, it's all points and it all means something.
Points mean prizes. We all know that. It's the most common rule that you will find. So Jordan Ross will try and make a move through, and in fact this will be for 14th and 13th after the Lee Ellis pit stop that has happened. He has come out with Mario Rushka just behind, as well as Sean Kelly, so that's good positioning from Go Lee. But look at this, Jordan Ross moving to the outside, trying to make this move into turn number 1, and is ultimately going to try and up and under his way through. And well, there's not much you can do here if you are Ethan Warren. You've left the door open to that attack, and well, this could continue because they're side by side through 3, but Ethan Warren holding it off through 4, stays side by side through 5, inside for 6, inside for 7, bit of contact between them. Now does he try and pry a gap open underneath?
Definitely, I think, is the answer to that one. But Ethan Warren still going defensive. Yeah, not able to do anything as Jordan Ross. Warren moving over just slightly, holding off through the hairpin. But look at the traction from Ross. Unfortunately, because of the way the track goes, he can't quite get alongside as quickly as he'd like to. Tiny bit of contact maybe between the rear quarters. No, still close. Swapping in the braking zone. You don't see that happen too much in these cars.
Whatever you do, don't cross the beams. That's what you're always told. But ultimately, it doesn't work out anyway, so crossing the beams was useless. Here's Madison down, though, trying to get past Dane Warren for 4th position, down to the inside. Here at Sunset Bend, gifted by Dane Warren. There is nothing he is able to do on those old tyres. Madison down, off and away and gone, and that is 4th position now his. Next up is 4 seconds down the road and hoping that Jake Burton struggles on those tyres.
Yeah, indeed. Warren didn't have much of a fight for that one. Replay of the maneuver in question, and as we do that, I just noticed Warren's run wide at turn 1, so that's more time lost for him. Those tyres completely shot now.
They certainly are, as there's bumping and banging between Jordan Ross and Ethan Warren. Warren still got it. Oh, it's beautiful between these two. They're putting on a clinic on how to overtake and drive and battle with everything that they've got. Jordan Ross is not giving this one up as he moves hard to the inside, into the paint, trying to make the move and still trying, and this is exactly the same scenario. They were a lap ago. They've been fighting 1 lap long, and this one's still going to happen through 3. Ethan Warren again's going to try and run that outside line. Again, it's going to work in his favour. Again, there's going to be a lunge at turn 5 here by a certain Mr. Jordan Ross, but still, they're in exactly the same position they were a lap ago, and it seems that we're watching a repeat.
Yeah, for sure. Ethan Warren is going to stick to the inside here. Ross forced to go to the outside. Oh, and he's lost it. There we go.
Oh, it was coming. It was coming.
That.
It's a shame. Jordan Ross was fighting so hard, but he'll lose a position to McMullen, Go Lee, and that'll be it then. He'll lose the position to Go Lee. But that one was so close. Look a little bit further forward now as the final laps start ticking into place, because Josh Muggleton and Cooper Webster, they're having their own scrap, and this is for the final spot inside the top 10. Valuable point.
Yeah, once again, these guys fighting with each other. We saw this some time ago in the race. History repeating itself again. Muggleton looking a lot more aggressive than he was last time, though. Straight to the inside.
Yes, trying to look at every which way to make that move, but again, superior traction off the exit there for Cooper Webster is enough to say, no sir, you're not going to get away through, not on this lap, and hopefully not on any others. Cooper Webster, off spot for this track, of course, the place where he got his first V8SCOPS victory. Yes, it was in a reverse split race, but it works. Gap opens and just trying to rise open the door with a crowbar, but ultimately the robber is not going to find anything. So for the moment at least, it seems that you're going to need to find a different save to make your throw. Looking at the inside at turn 1, not close enough.
And through the last turn, Webster able to pick up the traction at the apex just by running wide, because you stick too far to the inside at Sunset Bend, there's 2 or 3 really big bumps that unsettle the car. Got to get on the throttle a lot smoother. Look at Muggleton though. He's trying his utmost to scare Cooper Webster off the tracking.
Well, what has he got left in terms of weaponry? If he can't find a way down to the inside, he's got to scare his opponent. That's the way it works. So, gets into the mirrors as he gets onto the brakes going, you know what, I can make this move anytime I like. And he can't just yet, and that's the big issue. Can't make the move. He knows that Brenton Hobson is 3 seconds down the road and not running as fast. He knows that he's got no concerns in that regard. So, all he needs to do in the final stage of this one is work out a way to make the move, and ultimately you're starting to drop time.
Could be a top 10 on the cards for Josh Muggleton. We'll have to wait and see. Madison Down versus Jake Burton. Meanwhile, 0.6 of a second gained on Jake Burton.
Oh, and that just shows you Madison Down came to race. 0.6 that last time by Dane Warren, completely falling off a cliff, and gained a 10th on Ethan Griggold as well. But I think Griggold is too far along the hill, certainly for Jared Filsell, who leads now on lap 37. His gap is 10 seconds at the front of this field from his teammate Ethan Griggold and his main championship rival 1 year ago. Madison Down that last time by a 2:03.6, and it was a little bit better from Jake Burton, 2:04.1 exact. But again, another half a second, and in 4 laps they are going to nose to tail, and that puts you 2 laps to go. Burton's got to defend with everything.
And we know that he is going to defend with everything. Madison Down, though, he's a wily racer, an experienced one. Should be an entertaining battle for the last spot on the podium. Meanwhile, Sam Blacklock and Forza Nolnabi 7th and 8th. And these two, they are still running in the same positions they started in. So it seems like it's a nothing race for these guys, but they've been up and down and left and right.
They have been, but they have gone absolutely nowhere. On the brakes into the right hand, turn 7, and nothing doing for Zanelnabi, who was 0.4 quicker that last time by. Behind that, Cooper Webster still having to worry behind about Josh Muggleton, who again goes incredibly deep on the brakes, closes up to within about a quarter of a car length, and just unable to really make anything work. As we look a little bit further back, there's likes of Glenn Postlethwaite battling out with Brett Loxton, and Loxton's managed to get himself back into 20th position right now. He could still gain places. He can get past Glenn Postlethwaite. He looks to the inside to try and make that work. Not quite going to be able to do it, but not if Postlethwaite has a huge moment on the brakes. He locked the rears up, and that is a free position for Brett Loxton, who suddenly, after the worst race we've ever seen from him, is gaining positions. And look at this. Here comes, I believe that's Emily Jones going through, and that is...
Yeah, Glenn Postlethwaite, whoa, hang on, hold up, can you pull it up? Oh, no. Wow. Postlethwaite, something might be happening with your rear end at the moment. Oh,
Macmillan!
Oh, that's no good. Macmillan, that wasn't his fault at all. Glenn Postlethwaite is just trying to recover this car endlessly. Michael Healy as well. Oh, no, that's Scott Sislovsky. My apologies. Wow. Glenn Postlethwaite, the worst half a lap he's probably had in a while.
Yes, I have to agree with you on that one. He has been struggling, and that doesn't even do the half of it. Someone else who's struggled today, Brady Myers, who has also struggled. Madison Down, though, has brought the gap under a second for the first time, so it may not be 4 laps. Look at that time, a 2:03.2. Madison's finding absolutely everything underneath that vehicle. He is running the same times, in fact, quicker. He was the quickest man that last time by almost a 1/10 of a second. Madison is the man on the move, but at the moment, he's fighting for a podium, if anything, and to try and damage limitation against Filsell and Griggold.
And I think that's all Down can hope for at this stage. Evolution Racing Team, once again, they've proven that they are the ones to beat this season in SCOPS, but Madison Down, one of the pure racers of the field. Himself versus Jake Burton, both of them extremely fast, extremely racy. and Webster and Muggleton continuing to go at it into Cunningham.
Yes, out of Cunningham and now towards Tower they go, and Cooper Webster's looking at every which way to try and defend. Muggleton sideways! Oh, my word, where's Scafey when you need him? He's still sideways and he holds it together. Muggleton going all out to try and find a move. He's even going to try and go the Tokyo way to make some overtakes, and he's still not finding anything that he wants. Madison down though, he is the driver that's you got to keep an eye out on, because all of a sudden Burton now sees that gap, which was at 1.2 the last time they crossed the line, slashed again, 0.6, 2035 from Madison down again. Jake Burton's finding consistency, but not much else.
Right now, what Burton needs to do is start planning those defensive maneuvers, getting to the inside early, making sure that Down doesn't have a chance to out-drag him off a corner if he needs to. Meanwhile, Thomas McMillan, you can see he's got some steering damage from that contact with Postlethwaite. So McMillan in the wars once again, but still managing to run, which is good.
Yes, but look at Jack Boyd here. He's going to try and procure a position away from Pozzi, and there's not much that I think Glenn Postlethwaite can do about this. On the brakes, Sunset Bend holds. They'll get it done through the second. No, sir.
No, sir, indeed. But can Jack Boyd come at him again on the exit of turn 1? Oh, try the entry of turn 1. Goodness me. No dice, though, from the 23rd position man. Ethan Warren in P14 in the middle of a battle, and Down and Burton right with each other now.
Yep, they certainly are, and this is going to be one to just keep an eye out on them as they make their way towards the end. What can Madison Down find in the final stages to make this one work down the inside? Oh, almost there, as my microphone has decided it wants to be very, very loud just for a moment, so we'll just sort.
Indeed we will, as... Oh, that does sound better. Much better.
There we go. It helps when my wire isn't designed to mess up, but look at this. Talking of messing up, not Jake Burton. He's going to fight this one every step of the way. Big defensive line being taken. He wants that podium. He wants everything to do with that podium, and he holds it through the first part. Now, yep, you got to look at that second part as well here. Maybe there's a shot at this one, but look at this. Which way do you go? Which way do you go? Has to go the long way around at turn number 1 here. Does Madison Down, as Burton is refusing to budge.
Well, will he budge on corner exit? No, actually slows down up in the middle of the corner. That's killed his momentum. Instantly defensive. Once again, moving across. Little bit of a mistake from Down, but he has the tyre to be able to handle this. Burton, his next action zone is going to be the hairpin. He's got the throttle down nicely. Down doesn't have much of a run on him, but if Burton sticks to driver's right, he's not. What's he doing? He's letting Down go.
Oh, I think he's trying to run that exit line and try and get back up and under, and this is going to be the attempt that he needs. Finally yields it, but look at this. This is the run that he was looking for. Get the pickup here as they head to Cunningham Corner. Gets down the inside at Fangio. Now he's got to try and pinch his man to the inside as much as he can. Oh, they almost touched. I think they did. And look at this. Burton's giving everything here. They remain too wide to Tower. Inside line will always favour Madison Down, but I think it's give up, game over. He needed that inside line. He looks for it, and he's not going to find it. So Jake Burton loses the position, and the podium has got up in smoke.
Yeah, scrubbing his tyres for good measure, trying to recover that Larry number 33 machine, but well fought from Jake Burton all the same. This is going to be a result he'll be very proud of. Madison Down back onto the podium, but he'll probably be feeling like there was more that could be done in the face of the Evolution Racing team domination we're seeing.
I think there certainly is, and there is more that he could do, and there's a lot that he will be hoping to find, but for the time being, it is Jared Filsell's race to lose with 11 seconds worth of lead and 2 laps worth of racing. He could crawl it home and still win this race, but that is for another discussion, as I've just caught an eye of Richard Hampstead going completely sideways as Jack Boyd is under huge amounts of his own pressure, because this is Brady Myers trying to come back into this one, get something out of this race. This is for 22nd, on the brakes into Tower. Oh, looking for the inside, slid it, but not quite finding it.
Yeah, Jack Boyd once again, that rear end all over the place for him, and Jack Boyd, real life racer, he's really working that wheel, and Brady Myers having to hang back a bit. I don't think that's an entirely unwise decision, all things considered.
Well, he's got not long if he wants to go and make that move, so he knows he's got a lot to do, but Sam Blacklock and Forzan El Nabi has to go out there, has to go and make this one work. So we'll see how this one plays out in the final stages of this race. El Nabi is trying everything to get back in, looks at the inside, trying to scare Blacklock off his line, but not quite finding enough. Blacklock does have the fresher tyres, remember. So this is Forzan trying to fight against everything and hoping that this one is going to work out in his favour. They get on the brakes into the next right-hander at Cunningham Corner, and with a lap and a half, it's going to be tough for El Nabi. He needs some help.
Yeah, I honestly don't think he'll be able to get it done. Blacklock has been driving incredibly well in this last part of the race. El Nabi's going to have to pull out all the stops if he wants to try and get past. At the moment, seems like Blacklock is sitting pretty where he is. We have a replay now of an incident that Michael Cracknell found himself in. Now, what on earth happened here? Coming into turn one.
So this is the Zuva racing car looking down the inside, and bang and round. That's a huge hit. That was Postlethwaite who was struggling, and well, that's going to be something just to keep an eye out on. Look at Lee Ellis though. He is dropping back quite a bit. He's behind Sean Kelly now, so he's had himself his own moment then. As we get a look at that on screen as we are in the final lap of this event. So Lee Ellis getting in on the brakes, wiggle, wiggle, grass, goodbye. And that one all of his own doing, and he drops the positions after making his own little mistake. So, final lap coming then for Jared Philsell. For Forzan El Nabi though, that last time by, he gained fractions, but fractions ain't good enough. He's half a second back, and I'm not sure he's going to find himself a position to make this one work late on in this race. Looking a little bit further back as well, there is Emily Jones under pressure. Scott Soslovsky is trying to get the top 20 here with this final move, as Emily Jones, who's had to take an extra stop, mind you, she will now have to play an ultimate defensive game if she wants to hold on to a top 20 finish. For the moment, Soslovsky is trying everything to make sure that is a reality, but for the time being, nothing yet as they make the run towards turn number one. I think Soslovsky just a little bit too far back. Jones has to prove herself now if she wants this top 20 on return, and through turn one, nothing quite doing just yet. In terms of what's happening with Blacklock and El Nabi, that one stays exactly the same gap. But we turn to number one. Why? Because he has dominated this race. Yes, he didn't qualify on pole position, but my goodness, is his race pace on a caliber and a notch better than practically everybody else in this field. We said that he may like this track, and my goodness, doesn't he? Because final corner comes along for Jared Philsell, Australia's phenom when it comes to racing, and he rounds that final corner and picks up victory here at Sebring International Raceway. His season is back on track. Ethan Grigott will take to the final corner. He will get second position as Madison Down will hold on for third ahead of Jake Burton. In terms of Blacklock, El Nabi has nothing he can do. In terms of the top 10 battle, that's all over as well. Look back to the top 20 battle at the moment, because Emily Jones is still not out of the woods, Reese.
Yeah, she certainly isn't. Big pressure from Soslovsky coming into the Le Mans and Gendebien complex here. So this is for the final position in the top 20, which in SCOPS Split 1 definitely means something. What can Soslovsky do versus Jones? Not much at the moment. If Jones messes up the exit onto the straight, though, Soslovsky is going to be right with a tiny bit of a mistake, and Jones has the run. I reckon she's got this one, Sperry.
It's all dependent on Sunset Bend, the corner of 1,004 lines, and Now on the brakes, Kozlowski's going to go deep, but cannot commit any further than that for fear of understeer. And Emily Jones shall hold on for a top 20 finish. A great scrap between these two as they make their way over the line. The last few battles coming through as John Emerson tries to steal one as Glenn Postlethwaite chokes out of fuel heading towards the end. Sanford's going to hold off Emerson over the line, and the David Sanford fan club's going to be very happy as Michael Cracknell's going to try and steal one from Ian Bird in the Mark 1 car. No chance. That one wasn't close enough, but Postlethwaite drops one to Harushka, and Tom Freer is going to try and fight with Stenberg, but Tom Freer is going to win that one out. One victory notched up there for Hyperdrive after a sullen display that we've seen today. But everyone across the line, classified results follows. An hour, 27 minutes and 58 seconds. That's all the time that Jared Filsell needed to pick up victory here today. 11.4 ahead of Ethan Grigot, with Madison down, collecting up a podium to stem the bleeding. It's Jake Burton who gets fourth, with Dane Warren fifth. Ian Ford gets sixth ahead of Sam Blacklock, who staved off the challenge from Forzan El Nabi.
Richard Hamstead unfortunately slid 3 positions back there. He's settling for 9th, but Cooper Webster getting a top 10 for his troubles versus Josh Muggleton. A fantastic fight between those two. Brenton Hobson making it 12th. Marlon McMullen, one of the hardest chargers in the field, 34th to 13th. Amazing performance from the 85. Jordan Ross in 14th, with Ethan Warren and Sean Kelly rounding out that top 16.
Yep, and they are rounding that out fantastically. 17th went to Go Lee. Lee Ellis, he dropped 1 position in that race, but he definitely gave it a good crack. Chris Coxhead gets 18th position, with Brett Loxton 19th, gaining 1 position in the end despite having at least 4 offs in this race. With Emily Jones, she's holding off the top 20. Scott Kozlowski gets 21st, with Jack Boyd 22nd. Brady Myers struggled today, 23rd, not what he is capable of, with Brad Ratu. Good solid run, +5, 24th.
Michael Barron was also a guy who had a few adventures. Started 21st down to 25th. David Sanford beating John Emerson over the line, and Ian Bird making it 28th. Michael Cracknell and Thomas McMillan rounding out the top 30. And Riley Blythe and Murray Hrushka, 2 more people that suffered a bit in this one.
Glenn Postlethwaite really suffered, and he ran out of fuel at the end to finish that one in 33rd. Tom Freer and Kurt Stenberg battled to the line, 34th and 35th, with Corey Preston, Michael Taliancic, Christian Smart, Griffin Gardner failing to finish, with Andrew Gilliam. Just 2 retirements here today at Sebring. That just shows you just how strong the battling was out there and how clean all the action was as well. But we're going to step aside here on the iRacing Esports Network, because V8SCOPS post-race show comes with you after this.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS series. Some brilliant racing there, some clean racing. We went cautionless for probably, I think, the second time this season. And what fantastic racing that we had on offer. It was dominance personified here today by your race. Post-race coverage going to drag him up into our commentary booth right around now. If my computer decides it doesn't want to fall over right now, Jared Filsell joining us with a big race victory. Jared, they don't come much easier than that. 11.4 seconds on the rest of the field. It's safe to say that Sebring's your track.
I wouldn't say it was pretty easy. I actually had to pass some people, which was good fun. Didn't really maximise qualifying. But no, definitely a very good race set, and yeah, I like this track.
Well, you certainly liked the track, and you certainly found yourself with a little bit to do after qualifying. It did have to be said. So let's keep an eye on what happened in that qualifying run. So what ultimately happened for you there? You just didn't quite get your lap together on that final run through?
Yeah, a few mistakes on the lap, but ultimately I don't really think we had outright quali pace. In pre-qual we were pretty quick, but it was fairly inconsistent, so we just really wanted to be up in the top 5, and then we'll just send it in the race, because I'm pretty sure the race set definitely held its own tonight. It was very, very good.
Well, you're in a very good position, and you had to make those 2 overtakes to get yourself to the front and run away with things. But moving away then from what's happened here at Sebring, you've got Mosport coming along in 3 weeks' time at the start of June. So you got to start thinking about how that's going to play into your mind. How is a track which you did very well at last year, but ultimately got caught on the wrong side of the caution, going to play into your factor for 2 races instead of the one of last year?
Yeah, unfortunately we got burned by the safety car rules last year, but given the great admin and whatnot, so we shouldn't be able to see that rear its head again this year, hopefully. But I think the main prize is to put ourselves in that position again. It's going to be pretty tough. I think definitely Dane and Jake have definitely stepped it up, as well as Ethan and Madison, so it should be a very good race.
Well, before we let you go, Jared, any shout-outs or sponsors?
I'll give a big shout out to Logitech G, Speed Cafe, Joel Real Timing, and West End Mazda, and as well as the guys at Apex Racing Team. And congrats to Kev on his 3rd place in the Indy 500, and as well as Dean and all the guys working on the setup this week. Absolute brilliant effort from everyone involved.
Well, no worries at all. Jared Filsell picks up the race victory. Joining Reese Gardner is the man who came second, that being Ethan Grigg-Galt.
Indeed, Ethan Grigg-Galt here with me. Welcome to the commentary box, Ethan. It wasn't the best qualifying for you relative to everyone else, but come the race, your strategy was on point.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I felt like my qualifying wasn't too bad. Just everyone around me seemed to get a much better lap than I did. So, yeah, I sort of missed the ball at the end. Did go out at the right time when the track cooled down again and everyone went quicker. So that was a bit of a mistake. But yeah, stuck behind a few cars in the races wasn't too ideal. But we figured out pretty quick that our car was quite fast. So we just had Brenton on the strategy, and it come good in the end.
Seems like the race for you was fairly evenly split. Was that always the plan, or what kind of strategies were going through your head as those laps started to tick around?
Look, our strategy was pretty on the fly. It was just completely based around what other cars around us were doing. So we saw that Dane and Burton pit really early, which we thought would go quite hard on the tyres, having such a long stint. So we decided to go the complete opposite and have a really quick run towards the end.
And coming out of this round, with Jared Filsell winning, obviously the championship fight tightening back up the top. Coming into Mosport in 3 weeks' time, that new format could make things go off even more.
To be honest, I haven't really looked at the schedule, so I had no idea it was Mosport, and I've got no idea what the format is. But I'm sure all the boys at ERT will put in a really big effort that week, and we'll be right up the top.
For sure. Before we let you go, Mr. Ethan Griggolt, we'll give you an opportunity for shout-outs as well.
I'd just like to thank all the boys over at ERT. We seem to be putting in some awesome weeks, getting the car as quick as we can, and just thanks to our sponsors, Logitech and Speed Cafe, and all the boys over at Apex.
That was Ethan Griggolt there from Evolution Racing Team. Mr. Sperry, you're going to have Mr. Down.
I am going to have Madison Down join me in the commentary booth right now. 3rd position in the end, but a hard-fought 3rd after what was a very, very strong qualifying position. Right at the death there, Madison. A massive lap time to get yourself to pole. How did you gear yourself up for knowing you only had one opportunity left?
Yeah, what a lap. That felt good to do that with the clock dead in qualifying. So that was a huge lap at the back of the end of the session there. And one of them ones where you approach the line and you're punching the air because you know you're going to go to the top with the clock dead. So very good lap. I got balked a little bit on my first lap, but I didn't leave enough gap to the car in front of me. And I made a few mistakes. I was a little bit conservative. So I knew there was more in it. I just needed the cloud cover to stay there. And our car this round was very good over one lap, but over a race we really struggled. So the 1 lap speed's there for us. We've seen that three poles out of 5 rounds, but we're really struggling to keep the tyres on it. So yeah, Phillip, we just need to figure out what we did at Phillip Island and make that work at every track. But big congrats to ERT. They bounced back awesome after Phillip Island. Jared absolutely flogged us in the race tonight. So big well done to him.
Well, you ended up having to come along 2nd best, but let's talk about strategy then in the second half of the race, because you went very long in that opening stint and effectively only needed to fill up for maybe 2 laps, 3 laps of fuel towards the end. Was the decision to come in a little bit earlier the opportunity to really just find out where you were going to stand on that stop, go out there, have some battles, and just get some fresh tyres on you?
Yeah, as I said, we didn't have the race pace, and I figured out that pretty early into the race that we were really struggling and we weren't going to be able to control the race from the front like we did at Phillip Island. So in that scenario, I was going for glory. I was hoping, in the past here we've had a lot of safety cars. So I was kind of gambling on a safety car. That was really the only way we were going to win tonight if we could play that into our favour. So I couldn't do the same as Jared. Obviously, I knew Jared was probably going to do the even tyre strategy, which he did. So I needed to do something vastly different. And I saw that a couple of the other guys around me, like Burton, pitted as early as they could. So I decided to do the opposite to that and run extremely long, hoping that I would bolt on some fresh tyres and get a safety car late in the race or something, and it would vault me up the field and I'd have bugger all fuel to put in. So didn't eventuate, but I don't really think we lost anything out of it. Still got back up there to 3rd, and realistically, I don't think we had the pace to beat either Jared or Ethan tonight. So, yeah, just rolled the dice a bit. It was fun. Had some great battles with Jared, Dane, and Burton along the way. So, yeah, good fun race, but just frustrating not to be a little bit quicker.
Apologise there for any language that you may have heard there just then. But Madison, maybe clearer skies in a few weeks' time, because you go back to Mosport, which was a track which last season you managed to pick up the victory at through the safety car. So how is your mentality going to change, knowing that you've lost maybe a little bit of ground in the championship, knowing that you've got a very nice track coming up? How's it going to play over 2 races?
Yeah, look, the next few rounds for us are looking okay. Clearly we're quite fast in the high-speed tracks, like Phillip Island. We had good pace there. Hopefully in the next few rounds, with some high-speed ones coming up, we can utilise what we learnt at Phillip Island in those ones. But, yeah, obviously not ideal with the momentum coming off Sebring, not in our favour. So it's quite clear to us where we need to work. We need to work on race pace to have any chance of winning any races. We've got good 1 lap speed. So, yeah, we just need to keep doing what we're doing there and then work on the race. So, but, yeah, look, big thanks to everybody at TTR. We're pushing as hard as we possibly can. It's not an easy series, never is, especially against guys like Jared and Ethan and ERT. Those guys are very dominant at the moment, so working our asses off to try and beat them. But at this stage, it's very tough. But yeah, also big thanks to Virtual Racing School as well. Remember, you can jump on and compare any of the V8 data that you see from my data packs and get some base setups to work from. So yeah, thanks everyone.
No worries at all. Madison down, then picking up 3rd position. Someone who managed to get 4th position overall was Jake Burton. He's standing by with Reese Gardner.
He certainly is. Jake, welcome to the commentary box. 4th from 4th for you, but the numbers don't tell the full story. That strategy for you, you were one of the drivers to take those 2 short stints in the first half.
Yeah, probably not what I wanted to do, to be honest. I was sort of struggling in the first stint. I felt that Dane and Mad were a little bit slower than what I was, or at least that they torched their tyres a bit, and I wanted to pit early to try and get a bit of an undercut, and I saw a bit of a gap in traffic and went for the stop. And then the second one, I actually wanted to lengthen the middle stint so that I had a shot maybe at the end and didn't put myself in the situation I did, but I actually copped a slowdown, and Dane had just pitted, and I thought, well, I'll remove the penalty there and take the pit stop rather than costing myself the second half or so. So, yeah, it wasn't optimal. Meant I had to fight with dirtier tyres at the end, but just held up by a couple lapped cars. But I think 4th, maybe 3rd is probably all we had today.
Yeah, in terms of that maybe 3rd, the battle with Madison down at the end certainly got intense. From your perspective, Madison with the fresher tyres, your defensive drive from your perspective, going through your head, did you think that maybe you could have gone defensive a bit earlier?
Not really, to be honest. Hate to call out the rule makers, but at Interlagos I got a pretty rubbish penalty for blocking, and at this point in the championship I have no drop rounds remaining because of how my season started, so I wasn't looking to walk away with a penalty, so I could be, I really wanted to be a little bit more aggressive because I think if there were real life blocking rules, I definitely could have kept Mads behind me, or at least had a lot more of a chance, but you got to play within the rules that you're given. 4th is still a fantastic position championship-wise.
Fair enough. Coming into Mosport in 3 weeks' time, it's a new format, Super Sprint at Mosport as opposed to the 250 last year. That's going to definitely change a lot of drivers' approaches.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mosport's... I actually was a little bit sad to see the sprint round go at Sebring. I thought Sebring was good for a sprint round, but it turns out it was good for a 250 too. So the sprint might surprise us at Mosport. I really enjoyed the track, but seemed to have struggled there in previous years. So we'll come out and we'll see how we go. I'm really keen for that one, but I'm more keen for some of the tracks we've got coming up. Obviously, Watkins Glen and Monza, 2 tracks I really, really love coming up. So.
Any shout-outs or sponsors for you, Jake?
As many people know, my sponsor base has halved in the last week, but massive thanks to Virtual Racing School for their support. Obviously, hiring Rogers, Jared, Madison and myself, we've got a really cool crew going on there, and they do massive work for the sim community and for us. So huge thanks to them. Definitely subscribe if you want to go fast.
There's Jake Burton there, privateer and your 4th place finisher. And finally, Sperry, tonight we have got ERT's Ian Ford in the box.
Yes, 6th place finish in the end for Ian Ford. Ian, normally what we've seen from this season is go long, and when it seems that it's time to come in and pit, go even longer still. Very much a different turn of events for you tonight, going for early strategy calls and trying to win yourself that way. But let's just talk about that open pit stop for the moment, because you managed to leapfrog yourself up into 3rd position with a good short fill.
That's it. It's like that was all premeditated for once. Usually I'm trying to be the black sheep and going completely opposite from everyone else. And in this case, being completely opposite was actually taking one of the earliest stops and, trying to jump everyone around me. Early on in the race, I had a bit of pace over Forzan as well as Sam. So I just couldn't make any ground. So, initiate plan A, dive for the pits at the soonest possible time. And obviously not make the last two stints as long as Dana or Jake did in the end there.
Well, you found yourself with a lot of clean air, I think it had to be said, towards the end of that race, and ultimately consolidating a nice 6th place. You managed to make up 3 positions in the end and effectively swap your race position with Richard Hampstead. So finishing 22.5 seconds off of the leader, you have to take that as a good finish from where you started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Jared had clear air from pretty much day dot, so any time that I could minimise from losing from him was quite a thing, especially with how much pace he had in the end there. Coming down to those final laps, it's like obviously I was pushing as hard as I could trying to get to Dane and obviously gap Sam just to make sure that I could actually hold that position, because Sam pitted a few laps later and had me a little bit worried, especially considering the fact that all the way through this season I've been pitting last of all drivers pretty much and having the cleanest tyres at the end, and being able to go full quali mode any time that I needed to. But come that middle stint, that was pretty much what made or broke it. Broke the Campbell's back in the end there. I did watch back a tiny touch of the broadcast and hear myself get called a chicane, which I think is a bit unfair. It's like considering that Dane had already pitted, he'd obviously qualified up front, and I was still sticking it to him. So.
Well, you give some, you take some back. So I think we'll call that water under the bridge. But before we let you go, any shout-outs or sponsors?
Main shout-outs, obviously, straight back to the boys of the team. We've all worked exceptionally hard to try and figure out exactly what was wrong with the car come Phillip Island, because, as good as our result was there, it's like we're all pretty downbeat about things. And to rock up here, we're expecting the complete opposite in terms of weather. We're expecting clear, sunny sky, 47 degrees, being able to cook eggs on the side of the road if we needed to. And, everyone put their heads down, made sure that we figured out exactly what we needed. And, as smaller jumpers from 9th to the 6th is, it's like, we are extremely proud of that, because the only people that really got away from us are the people that got away in the first stint alone. So that's not too bad. And then, obviously you've got Logitech G that do an amazing job for us always, Speed Cafe, and then SDK Gaming. It's like we wouldn't really know exactly where we fall every day if it wasn't for SDK Gaming.
Well, it's all fair and turnabout, but 6th place for Ian Ford. He can be very happy with the way he's finished. But Reese, final thoughts as we leave Florida and head up over the border in towards Ontario.
It's going to be a fun one. Mosport throws up a fun race almost every single time, and that super sprint format will make things even better, in my opinion. But we've got a lot to take away from this round at Sebring, a fantastic race with lots of different strategies to think about. And once again, Jared Filsell on the top. We might see that be the story for at least the next couple of races, but we'll have to wait for a few weeks.
Of course, we've got ourselves Mosport coming up in a few weeks' time. Make sure you check that out. But tomorrow, it's back and better than ever. iRacing's V8 series is back on Monday nights. Make sure that you check that out. That's going to be absolutely fantastic to see that back in racing action again. But for the time being, a big thanks to the Virtual Racing School helping to sponsor V8SCOPS, the likes of Motum Simulations on replays, and of course West End Mazda as well. I've been Jake Sperry, that's been Reese Gardner, that's been Jay Kennedy, the quietest director behind the cameras, the quietest producer, you can say whichever you want. But it is Phil Sell's land once again, and he could be stomping a good season back into shape as he heads over the border to Ontario, Canada. We'll see you at Mosport in 3 weeks, but for the time being, it's all for now here with V8SCOPS.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?